Hi, hello, everybody. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Hopefully, everybody's doing well and feeling well on this Thursday, March 5th. Latimer, Marcos, Lord Drac, Flash, I see you're coming back, but I'll say hi to you now anyway. Stone, Travion, Dragon, what's going on? I hope you guys are doing all right. I hope you're feeling well, doing well. It's Morbin time. Awake for once. Marcos, you're always awake when you're here, right? Right? Replacing my Switch on screen protector. We'll be back soon. Man, Minish Cap is so good. Isn't Minish Cap great? Isn't Minish Cap a fantastic game? What's happening, Jared? We had. I thought I had like 2 or 3 topics that were going to be kind of chunky, and I can only remember the one, which is the Sony thing. So I don't remember what my other topic was going to be. I knew I had some stuff that I wanted to bring up. But we'll see what happens. I know there's a Capcom's doing an event today, and I'm kind of curious as to. I don't think I'll stream that because I think that's supposed to be 5 p.m. So that would have us running in slightly later than we have been. But yeah, it's not anything new. It's a spotlight on some of the stuff that we've already seen. And I haven't watched anything recently for Crimson Desert. For Crimson Desert, I do want to watch some more stuff, but I'm waiting for PS5 performance. I want to see how the game performs on PS5. The only other acceptable answer for best 2D Zelda other than Link to the Past. Minish Cap, obviously. Yeah. Absolutely. Link to the Past, obviously. That's a good one. What else? What other 2D getting your oil change, no problem, Connie. What other 2D Zelda games? If someone was to say this, I think is my favorite Zelda game, I feel like Link's Awakening kind of counts, both versions. I feel like you could get away with that if you said that Link's Awakening was your favorite. Like, obviously you get away with whatever you want to be your favorite or whatever you think is your favorite, but if somebody was to say obviously like the Tingle games or something, I'm like, okay, hold on a second. Like it would sound like you're pulling my leg if you said something weird was your favorite game. But if you said the Link's Awakening was your favorite example of a top-down Zelda game or any Zelda game in particular, I'd be like, yeah, I get that. Link's Awakening isn't even the best Zelda on the Game Boy Color. Whoa, easy there. I mean, that might be a hot take for me, Stone. I think Link's Awakening is better than the 2 Oracle games, specifically for the fact that the 2 Oracle games are notorious for either being too complex or just being too large in general. I think that Link's Awakening is a great size for a Zelda game, and it's all a compact game. I don't need to buy 2 games. I don't need to worry about, I don't need to worry about stuff that was cut. Because I can tell you I played Ages, and I think it was Ages, and I still think Link's Awakening is a better game. 4 Korean streamers got to see CD on base PS5 and said performance was good. Okay, because I saw a bunch of them pop up. Like, I played Crimson Desert for an hour or so, or whatever they said, and I think most of them are on PC. Is it weird aside, in a world where everything is getting more expensive, Apple is stepping into the budget bang for buck market. Took them long enough. They would dominate that market if they actually made good products. Boz Zero, thank you so much for the 35 stream streak. You know what is the best Zelda Game Boy? James Bond. The Oracle games are very heavy on one particular aspect. Either one game is a way more puzzle heavy, and the other either one game is way more puzzle heavy or the other one is way more combat heavy, which I think some people would like and then some people wouldn't. You know me, I like a nice balance of both. Maybe that's why Link's Awakening is such a good game for me, and it's also why when I talk about the Oracle games, and we talked about this the other day, I would like to see them somehow combined into one game, even if it's just on one package and it's both games. I would rather have one big giant game. But even then, I know that it might be too long. So I'd rather just have both games in one package. Yeah, Oracle games are both complete games. The Ganon fight is more of a bonus, really. Technically, Link does talk. How else do you respond to NPCs? You say yes, no, who are you? Yeah, Well, that's like the silent pro tag question. Like in the world that the silent pro tag exists in, are they silent? Are they not saying anything? And most of the time they are. Most of the time, oh, what are you doing here? And then the silent pro tag doesn't say anything, and they go, oh, okay, well that's that's over here. Like, yeah, I like a balance. Nintendo needs to remake the Oracle games as one game. It would be great, but I'm not that big of a fan of the current look 2D Zeldas have. Oh, see, that's a shame, Dracus, because I love that sort of toy look. I love it. They're releasing a $500-ish laptop that's even that even has PC users like, this is probably a better deal than a Chromebook, which Google doesn't want to hear. To be fair, I don't think the Chromebooks are all that great. I've used them before, and they're not terrific pieces of hardware. Link's Awakening dungeons are also kind of just fine. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. I think they're better than fine, but I don't think they're great. I don't think there's a dungeon in Link's Awakening where I thought, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I just think that they're good. I think they're good. I think they're better than fine. Fine implies like it's got a gigantic bunch of problems, but I still like it. Like when I tell people I'm fine when they ask how I'm doing. Yeah, Link has never been mute other than Echoes of Wisdom. Behind all that Italian gibberish, Mario and Luigi do talk and say stuff. I mean, they do talk to us too, and it's not gibberish. What they say, I want a potato. Is there a silent pro tag that's actually silent, but they're really good at charades? Atomic, I'll answer your question with a question. Is there any game out there where your hero character is a mime? Because the answer to that question is the answer to your question. Do I like Link's Awakening dungeons better than Link to the Past? No. I think I like Link to the Past. I can't deny that there's going to be a bit of nostalgia bias there. Even though I, played Link to the Past, Link's Awakening a long time ago also. But I've definitely played Link to the Past more. And that is only half a gag since Nintendo did publish a top-down Zelda-esque James Bond game. Which one was that one? Fine is fine. Doesn't have big problems. Also not blowing me away. There's something else here. Hold on. You want a game where the pro tags are 50? Wait, what? What do you think of Pokemon Wind and Waves? Okay, I knew there was something that I wanted to talk about there. With Pokemon specifically. Chromebooks aren't very good. They were the only real choice. People are saying Apple may have just waited for Google to make a laptop for your kids market, and it said now that the market exists, we're stepping in. Also, Apple is upgrading a lot of their current laptops, desktops, phone, tablets, while also not increasing the price, which is extra given this weird chip shortage. Maybe it's because Dragoon, they've been overpricing everybody for so long, and people have just been huffing copium to imagine that it was fine. And now they're bringing it down to normal prices, and everybody's freaking out. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, look at the great thing they're doing!" It reminds me of like Hallmark. Hallmark would get picture frames in at double the price that anybody else would normally sell them, and then they would have a bunch of 50% off stickers. So they said 50% off right out of the box. I was rewatching. So I was watching a video yesterday, and then that made me rewatch the Pokemon Wind and Waves stuff. The more I watch the Wind and Wave stuff, I'm kind of sold on it. I feel like I need to see more just about the gameplay loop and everything, because other than like just not really engaging graphically with Pokemon, the gameplay loop is also the problem for me. I tend to find it very stale. A lot of it ends up feeling like busy work. There's nothing really there to make me think it's a compelling story. So if they're going to make this game like this is why I'm kind of I'm more and more sold on it. Pokemon on the surface has looked stale for a while now, right? I wasn't particularly a big fan of the graphics of Moon. I thought that they were okay, but you remember I hated the character models. I didn't like the no matter what happened, he had that stupid look on his face. I hated that stuff. And then Sword and Shield came out, and I was just kind of like, I don't know. I'm not seeing a Switch game, right? I'm not seeing a Switch game from a 3DS game. And then everybody said that it was kind of stale as far as gameplay goes. Scarvio came out, and obviously Scarvio had a bunch of problems, but even if you remove the problems of Scarvio, like the technical stuff, it was still a bland game. It was still flat textures, and it was still relatively unimpressive. You know, we joke about the grass textures, right? That was always the big thing. It was the grass or it was the water. It's the grass texture. Like, oh God, the grass looks terrible, and we always made a joke about that. But it did look bad. Like it didn't look as impressive as I believe Pokemon could look if they put some effort into it. So now it feels like when I look at the graphics of the game of Wind and Waves, it looks like they're putting effort. So now I'm curious to see more of the game, because if they put effort there, where else did they put effort? Did they make the combat loop a little bit better? Did they make the exploration loop a little bit better? Is there more interactivity with the characters? Are there some sort of branching paths or some sort of choices that I can make? Or is there going to be anything else there for me? And I'm genuinely curious now. As far as the graphics, though, I'm sold. I think that it looks terrific. And I don't know where that was coming from. The video popped. You know who it was? It was Beat 'em Ups. Beat 'em Ups posted a video about it. And Beat 'em Ups has been somebody that has been critical of Pokemon. You know, he was a Pokemon fan, but then the series took the lazy turn. And that's true. You know, for all this time that people talk about Pokemon and they complain or defend it, it is true, because now we're seeing a better looking Pokemon game, and immediately people are saying, oh yeah, finally some great graphics. It's like, all right, so you admit that it wasn't fantastic before. So now that I see solid effort going into the mainline series as far as graphically goes, I am curious to see what else is there. Normally I just kind of walk right past it. Pokemon Company they needed that wake up call. I'm going to jump around here. So we're going to be getting Gen 10? Possibly, yeah. I probably won't enjoy it all that much currently, but I'll be able to talk good about it a little bit. Pokemon Wind and Waves IGN review, too much water. And Crimson, like that was obviously the joke, right? IGN, too much water. Even if that were the case, the water is gorgeous. The water is beautiful in the game. Pokemon Ultra Sun looked more impressive, and the game barely ran on an old 3DS. Pokemon graphics, story, and models, animation looked like shit for a while, but the gameplay is too easy. Turn-based can be fun, but there needs to be a challenge. Also, more things to do besides the Pokemon League, maybe side quests and dungeons. A lot of what you're asking for was in Scarvio, but the gameplay loop has stayed mostly the same. Not to mention, the graphics were ass. They were not good. I'm sorry. They weren't. They weren't good. Even when they didn't break, if the game ran perfectly fine, they still looked like ass. And as far as like, oh, well, people glitching through the floors, they were emulators, or that wasn't really common. I'll tell you what was common. Chugging frame rates at times. Every footage I saw of Scarvio had frame rates where I just thought, okay, well, what's happening here? That it's not like it's so graphic intensive that shouldn't be working. And but that kept happening. I kept seeing it. So I was like, I'm out. When you say you want the combat loop to be better, what exactly do you want out of them? To go beyond turn-based? I don't think I'd want them to go beyond turn-based. I think that turn-based, I think it's possible to go beyond turn-based, but I think it would be a lot harder to do. And I don't think I'd want it off of the mainline games. I don't think I want the mainline games to be that. I think I want them to remain some kind of turn-based. I wouldn't mind something that's, I don't know. I'm not sure what I want. I think I want and I'm going to be, I have to be kind of vague here because I don't know that I have a right answer. I think I want something that feels less like a gimmick and more like an addition to the combat loop. And I don't know how that would manifest itself. You know, you have the Gigantamaxing, and again, I have to keep pointing this out because Pokemon is such a weird franchise for me that I have a decent amount of opinions on, and yet I haven't played that many of them. I didn't play Sword and Shield. I didn't play Scarvio because it looked boring to me, and visually it was ugly to me. So not ugly, just not what it should be. And so I saw like the Gigantamaxing and everything, but when they introduce these features, they just feel like gimmicks. They feel like gimmicks that we know are not going to come back. Yeah, and Stone, I was about to say that, Stone, and I didn't say it because you're right. The only gimmick that stayed long term is double battles, because double battles doesn't feel like a gimmick. It feels like a new engaging gameplay mechanic, because now not only do you have two Pokemon that you have to worry about at the same time, now you can combine what they do and you make it more interesting. Now it's not, all right, well, I'm gonna do this thing, and then I have to wait a whole turn, swap out a Pokemon, and then hopefully I'll be able to do the second part of the turn. Now I have two Pokemon on the field and I can make choices. There's something that I can do, which is what we've seen out of every party-based RPG is that you have multiple characters. So you can now strategize how you want to do things. So I don't know. I don't know what, like, a lot of this is probably coming from the fact that I'm playing Expedition 33, and Expedition 33 as a combat loop feels like a lot of fun. There's a lot of there's interesting things there. There are ways to manipulate the AP system. The characters are all very different from each other. It also helps that there's only 5 characters. I don't have to manage 1,000 characters and figure out which one I want to use, or even 100. Right? Even if I just, because that's what I would do is I would stick with the new Pokemon, which I think you can. I think you have to do that anyway, but like I wouldn't even use the Alolan Pikachu. Like I wouldn't bother. I don't want to do that. I want to use Pokemon that are brand spanking new. Ooh, excuse me. Yeah, there's RPGs and then there's Pokemon RPGs. So yeah, I think that's I would need to engage more in some of the combat systems to try and figure out what it is that I would want. I just know that the most recent one that I played was Moon, and I just thought it was kind of boring. And someone said this earlier. I've been saying it for a while. Lots of people have been saying this for a while. There needs to be some sort of difficulty slider. There needs to be something that makes the game a little more challenging. I do prefer a system like that. And I'm not saying it has to beat me upside the head every chance it gets, but sometimes I want there to feel like a reason I should have multiple teams with multiple setups, and I should be willing to look around at my other Pokemon and say, this one works. Because what do we always say? We keep the same 2 or 3. I do it anyway. I keep the same like 2 to 4 Pokemon on the team, and then I swap out 2 of them for none of my base 4 have fire attacks, so I'm gonna switch to a fire Pokemon for one of my extras. Like, and then there's the 2 that I swap around. I'd like for there to be more. I have 2 separate teams, and I need to swap between them. There's a real valid reason I need to do that, not just the desire to use different Pokemon. ZA has a really cool combat system by being cooldown based. Like, that sounds interesting. Doubles were begrudgingly accepted before they finally were seen as normal now. And I think that it's a great idea. I think that that's a great idea. You grew up more with stuff like Final Fantasy, etc. Yeah, I grew up with something that is a bit more intense of an RPG experience. So I would like that from Pokemon. I really would like that. That's why they introduced XP share key item to better allow team swapping. Pokemon tried to carry gimmicks over, but the communities rejected a lot of those gimmicks. Mega Evolution was pretty hated by the community, by the competitive community for breaking things until it was gone. Then they said, I miss Megas. It was such a cool idea. To be clear, even a Pokemon company tried keeping Megas for a few titles. You want to see stuff like skill chains. Skill chain? Yeah, that wouldn't actually be bad. Skill chaining wouldn't be bad. I think I got the answer. Here's a Shin Megami Tensei game. I think you'll find what you need. I know, I'm not falling for that one. I've seen the penis on the chariot. I want more strategy match type ups. Need to have a less effect. But Mega Evolutions were cool. Currently practicing guitar. That was that Ronan? Is that not Gustav's instrument? The XP share is more to avoid grindy stuff, but it is easy to overuse. Megas were beloved. It's stuff like Gigantamax and super moves that people hated. And mind you, you're also saying, is that from the community at large or the competitive community? Because the competitive community always has vastly different ideas of what games should look like. You know, if for anybody here that plays Final Fantasy 14 or has played any MMO, the competitive the world first communities, right? The world first guilds that would be in World of Warcraft, where every week these were the hardcore raiders. These are the ones that would fight to have the best gear. They would learn all the best strategies, and they wanted to play the game on super deluxe difficult +10. And then they would ask for harder difficulty modes because they would dominate them. And then they would ask for harder difficulty. It's like, no, that's for you. You are 1% of 1% of the player base. You should not be making these choices for everybody else. Both. So but it was, you're saying it was both fans that had a question about that. Yeah, heroic, and then I think they added mythic at some point, and those were the people that would say that they wish the game was harder. It's like, no, that's not fair to everybody else that you want the game to be harder because you actively play it on the hardest difficulty. It's like playing Helldivers on super Helldive mode and then complaining that medium isn't difficult enough. Like, what are you even doing here? I don't understand that. Leaf Green, loving to revisit. I feel the lack of modern XP share grinding is so slow. Like, there are features that make it better. Yeah, Mythic is already a full-time job. Oh, guess who failed at getting the learner's permit? I hope it's not you. I hope it's somebody else and not you. I myself always liked Mega Evolutions. Yeah, so I think that's what it is, and I would like there to be a little bit of an extra challenge. As far as the amount of Pokemon, that's fine. It's okay. I know that there's a bajillion of them, and I know that can be overwhelming. And that doesn't sound like much of a problem to say that. Like, I know this is going to seem weird to say that there's too many Pokemon, right? And I'm not even talking about the 1,000 or it's going to be 1,100 now. I'm not even talking about the 1,100. There's usually about 100 Pokemon in each new game. How did you know that I didn't fail? I didn't know. I was just hoping. If you want to make rank 10 divers missions harder, purposefully choose basic gear. Yeah. So, like, I don't know what I would really want. If you refight trainers, you get more experience. I mean, obviously, I want harder difficulties. You know what's something I think would make Pokemon more fun for me as far as difficulty challenges? This is tell me if this is either the hottest take or the coldest take ever. I like when the higher difficulties in WoW raids added a whole extra phase to the boss. Can we just scale back the damage? I think the time to kill is a little high in Pokemon. I think that when you get a critical hit and your opponent is just immediately dead, fainted, whatever, I think that we should probably be talking about the time to kill in the game. Why is it? Because now it doesn't turn into, let me pick the best team and let's figure out what we got to do. Let's put some strategy together. And the strategy goes away when it becomes, all right, I have to pick the right Pokemon so that I can one-shot them as much as I possibly can. Because you know what that game is? You know what that game is? When you change the nature of the strategy of the game to make sure that you're going to be able to one-shot your opponent, that's what Yu-Gi-Oh! Became. That's what Yu-Gi-Oh! Became, and I don't like Yu-Gi-Oh! Now because of it. Because I can't sit there and strategize and make something that is like, oh, this is great. It's going to blow their minds that I'm going to be able to do this. No, I just have to put a bunch of Pokemon together that can crit my opponent, and then I'm done, and it's over. It's like, okay, that doesn't, and it works. That's the worst part. Like, I joke about Pokemon, how in Pokemon games I never used, I don't really use stat buffs in Pokemon. I don't do any of the thing like, oh, we're going to raise your attack or lower their speed or something. I rarely ever use that stuff because that one turn that I used up to cast slow or to hit them with slow, I could have just used it to hit them with something that was probably going to kill them. So it's like, I want there to be a little bit of a challenge. I don't want it to be grindy, but I also want it to make me have to think about what I have to do. Crits aren't one-shots. No, they're not intended to be one-shots, but they used to do so much damage that they were. And I don't know. And again, maybe this is all stuff that was fixed, but I know that in Moon, that's what I kept doing. I kept trying to figure out which Pokemon would work and then just annihilate them, and it was always easy to do. You are describing Shin Megami Tensei game at this point, which is crazy to me that I'm doing that. The story for the story of the game isn't too crazy hard, but especially later games, they get some tougher fights. If you go into competitive, and again, I don't want to have to go into competitive. I don't want to, because competitive isn't a story. Competitive is competitive. In that situation, you're not going through the game experiencing the story. You are fighting other players, and you're doing stuff like that. Black 2 and White 2 have a hard and easy mode after beating their respective versions, except they did a bad job making it because apparently hard mode scales enemy levels, but they keep the normal mode stats. So it's actually easier because you get more XP, which is wild. Assume this means easier mode is harder because I'm assuming they made them lower leveled. You're asking for a whole different kind of game than Pokemon is. Is it though? Is it like, as long as we're talking about the same gameplay loop and the same aesthetic, aren't I talking about the same thing just a little bit more? And I wonder if this is, I'm going to say this, and I don't want this to be misinterpreted, but I guess misinterpreting it, or maybe they are saying it that way, is the problem. I do want something to be a little more grown up. I do, and I don't mean grown up as in adults play it. I mean grown up as in when a franchise grows up. Bear in mind, the franchise is 30 years old. We're still using a structure from 10 years ago, from 20 years ago. And I mean, not structure, but like the mechanics all feel the same. When I played Moon, at least, I felt like I was just playing the same game, but a newer one. And I kind of, I know it's got to be somewhere in the middle. I don't want something that's completely, totally brand new, but at the same time, I do want something that feels fresh. And when I played Moon, I didn't feel like I was playing a game that felt fresh. I felt like I was playing another Pokemon game, and I say it with that disdain. 30 years. Well, Marcos, I'm saying like I'm not going to compare a modern Pokemon game to Gen 1, right? I'm not going to compare it to the Game Boy games. But you had these ideas that popped up over the course of the beginning generations of Pokemon, and then it just felt like everything just kind of felt the same. I don't know, for at least for looking at some of it, but what little I have played of it, I just didn't find it all that interesting. I played White 1, I think it was white one, and I was like, oh, okay. Everybody told me I would like that one because it was more story focused, and I was like, oh, it was okay. I played it, I beat it, it was fine. Remember when you played Digimon Time Stranger demo, something like that? I like the Time Strangers demo. I actually did enjoy that. I want Pokemon battles need to stop feeling like tutorial battles. With other points of line, just flipped Megas. A lot of discourse been buried. I hate that the new gen Pokemon games are all baby's first RPG. Like, it really does feel that way, and I want Pokemon battles to stop feeling like tutorial battles. It really does kind of feel that way, and I don't know how accurate or not accurate that is, but it's true. So I would like something to be a little bit more slightly more challenging, slightly more complex. And if people want to start throwing, oh, well, kids play this game. Great. I played Final Fantasy when I was a kid. I played Final Fantasy 1 when I was a child. So don't tell me that kids can't play complicated games. It's not I'm not asking them to play these physics-based games like Octodad or I Am Bread. I just want something that makes me think a little bit more about what it is that I'm doing so that I don't just fall asleep halfway through it. Play Time Stranger, damn it. I don't have it. I feel like the Gen 7 games never shut up. They were always yapping at you about malasadas or some mechanic in game. The most recent game I played was Pokemon Black, and I only played it because some kid dropped their cart in a Walmart parking lot. I can't tell you anything about it, though. I got bored. I'm not trying anything new until my situation fully stabilizes. I don't want to even be more on edge because of what I'm trying to fixate on. People say Final Fantasy 1 is hard. It is for a child. I mean, Iron Bread. No, I Am Bread. People say Final Fantasy 1 is hard. It was a very grindy game that was relatively punishing, that limited your resources heavily. There was one kind of potion. There were 3 kinds of houses that really didn't do anything. It was spell charges. I don't know if you ever played the NES. Bob, when I'm talking about Final Fantasy 1, I mean NES Final Fantasy 1. It was by today's standards, it's a very antiquated game, missing a lot of things that we're used to, missing a bunch of things that it probably should have had, and it did kick your ass at times. I think Final Fantasy 1 was kind of, not to mention some of the spells didn't even work. You know, it's not like I can go through Final Fantasy 1 and cast Invis and raise my evasion. That spell literally didn't work. So from a structure standpoint, yeah, Final Fantasy 1 was actually pretty challenging back then. Also, you have to remember, this is a console RPG for that we never really had. You know, what out there on console was like a Final Fantasy game? Dragon Quest? Dragon Warrior? Sort of, yeah. Wizardry? What? Ultima maybe? But I don't even think they were early games. And I don't remember how many Ultima games were on there. If you want something designed for kids, play edutainment and stop thinking kids are stupid. They're not stupid. Not every kid needs Yoshi's difficulty, right? Yoshi game difficulty, where you can't even die, where you fall into a hole and your character just magically floats back up. Not every kid needs that. Some kids want there to be a challenge. There are people out there who think Super Mario Brothers 1 is a challenging game, and we beat it all the time as kids. There are people who couldn't beat Zelda 2 as kids. I feel like kids can beat a harder Pokemon. Oh, there are kids who beat Zelda 2 as kids. Right here. I feel like kids can beat harder Pokemon if they're determined enough, and if there's a reason to do it. If there's an in-game reward. Wizardry is an early 80s game, to be fair. Well, I don't know when it came out on NES. I didn't have a computer. That's why, like, Wizardry and Ultima I know existed, but I didn't have access to them. And I think a lot of kids didn't have access to them, because back then even computers weren't that common. It was not super common to have a computer in someone's home in the early to mid 80s. And if they did, it was the old green screen Tandy computer, right? The old Coleco that didn't really do anything. Yoshi and the Mysterious Book coming to a Switch 2 near you. Same note. Not every kid wants that challenge. It goes both ways. So then you make a difficulty slider, or you just put it on easy mode. I don't understand why people are so obsessed with the idea that Pokemon can't have an easy mode, and you don't even have to make it a toggle throughout the game. Just have easy mode or hard mode. Just let everybody play that. Don't even call it normal. Call it easy or hard, and piss everybody off. It's supposed to be a game for all ages, particularly young kids who grow up to be Pokemon fans. It's not that kids can't play hard games, but that's not exactly the goal of Pokemon, a game that always reminds us that basic reading is required to play. Sure, but isn't a basic challenge also required? Would you watch a movie where nothing happens, where there's no character conflict whatsoever? And I don't mean conflict as in there's a gunfight or an explosion or a sword fight or something, but there's even in cozy shows, they have some sort of conflict. There's some problem that needs to be resolved. And Pokemon games, for the ones that I played, didn't feel like there was a conflict to be resolved. It just felt like find whatever Pokemon you like, give them a couple of moves, and you can probably brute force your way through the game without having to think a ton about it. I had a student who finished Hollow Knight and got stuck in the Pantheons. Most kids do find Pokemon a basic challenge. So then why not give it a secondary challenge for older people? Why not have there be we do this all the time with the difficulty problem. I don't understand why you can't have two difficulties. I don't understand why when you start the game, you can't say, I would like a calmer challenge, or I'm a seasoned Pokemon player. Why can't I just say that at the beginning of the game, and then it changes the difficulty? And sure, if you want, then that's a modern thing, have it so that I can change the difficulty halfway through. I don't understand why it's so much of a problem for me to even ask for that. And I agree with the Pokemon people who get upset about this, because it doesn't sound like they're saying Pokemon games need to become Soulsborne games. They just need to have a little bit more of a challenge, even if it's a difficulty selection that you make. Normal and hard. There you go. There. So we don't piss off the people who want to play it on easy. Normal and hard. Why is that so much of a problem to even ask for? Because the second you ask for it, everybody's like, but the Pokemon game, kids aren't that smart. Like, what are you talking about? And I got news for you. And this one's going to be a little bit of a controversial take. Kids can't play the difficult games. They like the difficulty like that. They're not going to get better by playing the same easy games. You don't get better at jumping hurdles when you make all the hurdles 6 inches high. There has to be some sort of challenge in order for you to get better. Otherwise, people are going to get mad whenever there's a minor difficulty in the game. New to the series, here's the 6-party format. Want a challenge? We limit your party to 3. Limit my party to 3, and then have the game built around that, or not have the game built around that. Have certain fights built around that. I think that's what I'll do. If I do get this new Pokemon game, I'll tell you what. From now on, if and when I play a Pokemon game, I will use a maximum of 4 Pokemon. I will never use more than 4 Pokemon. I guess I'm going to have to do that. Or triple battle. Yeah, there were triple battles? Oh, yeah, that's right. I think Moon had some triple battles, right? Do a Nuzlocke? See, I don't like a Nuzlocke. I don't want to fear losing characters permanently. I never really liked that. I didn't like that in Fire Emblem. We're not hopping around. Why not have a basic challenge? Most find it does. Why not harder, which isn't unfair to want. The goal is forever sliding. And again, the guy who wants sliders and harder games. Yeah, I think that's what you do. I wish Souls games had an easy mode. Black 2 has a hard mode, but to access it, you have to finish the game, receiving an item, and transfer it to a new game file, for which you need a second console and copy of Black 2 or White 2. No, you can't unlock them if you're playing White 2. You need Black 2 specifically. We're talking about difficulty in Pokemon games. Just, Captain, just that I'm actually kind of interested in Wind and Waves, and difficulty has been one of the reasons that I have not really engaged in Pokemon, because I like Pokemon. I like the concept of Pokemon. I think that the characters are all cute, right? I'm big on that. I like the characters are adorable, so I have no problem with that. It's the gameplay experience. It's the gameplay experience. Limiting your party won't make it any easier. Actually, Van, I feel like I might actually disagree with you on that. I think it will, because, like I said, I usually keep the same 3 or 4 Pokemon on my team, and then I swap out the other 2 or 3 based on what opponents I'm going to be facing. If the 4 that I have don't have the right set of moves, then I'll swap out some of the other 2 to the ones that do. If I limited it to 3, now I have to pay more attention to which Pokemon I'm using. At the very least, that's going to make me feel better. That now I have to pay attention to the Pokemon that I'm using. But I'm also going to end up, and I'm saying throughout the game, I'm also going to end up in situations where I'm fighting people with more than 3. Now I'm fighting people. Yeah, type advantages are going to matter more. Team comp is going to matter more. Hitting them with status effects is probably going to matter more. And at the very least, I now have to look at my Pokemon. Now I have to really give a damn about them, because I usually don't give a damn about more, like 75% of the Pokemon in the Pokemon games, I usually just don't care about, because I don't have to. That's kind of like people don't want Pokemon. They want a different game, just like Pokemon, in all the ways that matter to them. That doesn't play. I didn't say I don't want it to play like Pokemon. When did I say that I want it to be an action game, or I want it to have a whole different type of moveset or a whole different combat system? I'm not asking for a parry and dodge system. I'm not asking for anything like that. I want the battles to play out exactly the same. I just want to have to give a damn about which Pokemon I'm using, and I want there to be a reason for it. And not some lazy let me tell you what system I think is lazy, and I think 13 Sentinels does this. When you use the same Pokemon over and over again, they get fatigued and you have to switch to new ones. I think that's a dumb system. I was talking about adding a new battle system. No, I just want a twist on the battle system. Do you think that double battles are a different battle system than the regular battle system? It just means that you engage in it differently. I don't want there to be a bunch of new mechanics that make Pokemon look nothing like it did before. I just want something that makes me want to engage in what's there, and I don't think there is. I think you pick the first move on your list and you move on, and then sometimes you have to pick the second one. Most difficulty ROM hacks don't usually help either. Have fun fighting the first gym, which has 6 fully evolved Pokemon. You're not the issue. The AI programming, the system is the issue. It needs to be reworked. The games need a hard mode. They just do. They just need a hard mode. Forget trainer stuff. Give me new mystery dungeon and Pokken tournament too. You want a challenge. The most common Pokemon challenge is Nuzlocke. Find the one that best fits you. And Draka, we've talked about Nuzlocks before, because I needed you guys to explain them to me. That there's different types of Nuzlocke. So maybe a Nuzlocke would work if it was a different type of Nuzlocke. How about you put your idea to the test? After Minish Cap, put on a Pokemon game of your choice and try and see if your strategy works. What Pokemon game would I try? I don't have modern Pokemon games. I need it to be something that feels a little bit more modern. I don't think I have a modern Pokemon game that I could really try. I don't have Sword and Shield. I don't have Scarvio. So I don't know what game. So spend $20? Ooh. Use a past one. Ronan, I feel like using a past one is not a good idea, because I already have an opinion of that game. If what I'm trying to do is engage in it in a way engage in a new way that I think would be more interesting for me. So like I have Omega Ruby. I've already tried Omega Ruby. I've already beaten Omega Ruby. So I have my opinions about that game, which I actually did kind of like Omega Ruby. I still think it was the same thing, but I don't know. I think back then I was more open to just doing that. Legends Arceus. I have Legends Arceus. Does it play like that? It plays different. Yeah, no, Dragoon, you're right. You're teasing, but you're absolutely right. Like I understand that, and that's why I always say all of this stuff with an asterisk, that I'm talking about the quality of games that I haven't played. The most recent one I have is Shining Pearl. I wonder if those would work, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I remember people were saying that those games were problematic, but I don't know what the problem was. Yeah, Legend series is more real time. You can only emulate past Pokemon games. What do you mean? What do you mean for past, like Sword and Shield? It's an interesting internal debate. Because in any other case, we'd have to say play something that gives you that. But Pokemon is so unique. Yeah, like you said, like you want a different game. No, I want it to be Pokemon though. Go play Power World. Power World isn't even structurally the same kind of game. That's more like a survival game with little creatures. Hold on, reread that. Wait. Reread what? Oh, unless someone's willing to give up $60, you can only emulate past Pokemon games. No, I read that right, didn't I? What am I missing there? You can only emulate past Pokemon. Am I missing something there? Is that a different? What's happening there? BDSP are good, but very much Diamond and Pearl with modern quality of life. That's not a new battle system. It's restricting the battle system in ways where you have to strategically consider what Pokemon to take to battle. And I guess that's it. I guess I maybe that's my problem. Maybe my problem is that the game doesn't give me the challenge I want, so it is going to be my responsibility to make that challenge, which I have said many times I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of I have to make the game harder, where I have to limit what it is that I'm doing. If someone donates for a Pokemon game, your options... Wait, you're saying unless someone donates for a Pokemon game, your options are to emulate. Why? I don't understand. I think that's what I'm not understanding, is that why would that be? Why couldn't I just go and buy Sword and Shield or Scarvio? Are they not available anymore? Arceus plays like a turn-based Oh, does it really? Yeah, it doesn't, right? Yeah, your options are to emulate in order to test your theory out. I mean, unless I went and bought one. Yeah, I think that's what I'm getting lost on this comment here. I would go and buy one. That's what I'm talking about. Wait. But it is a fainting thing because it's unfair to want something to change because we want it to be what we like. Pokemon is kind of the inverse of the Final Fantasy issue, where it's not changed and continued to grow, but leads to complaints due to that. While Final Fantasy has changed, leading to happy new fans, many unhappy older fans, and despite not wanting them to admit it, at the moment, declining sales. Because I think Final Fantasy and Pokemon are two extremes of this of the issue. Pokemon is a game that hasn't really changed as much as it should have, and it definitely should have. Final Fantasy is a game that drastically changed. When it comes to Pokemon, we're still talking about turn-based battles, but now we're talking about a game that, difficulty-wise, is insane. Final Fantasy's issue is it's not even turn-based anymore. Aesthetically, it looks different. Gameplay-wise, it feels different, and it definitely is different. Like, everything is different about Final Fantasy. Am I willing to spend money on a new Pokemon game to test my strategy? All right, here we go. If I could get one of them cheap, if I find Sword and Shield or Scarvio in the wild for $20, I would say that's worth it for me to try. That's worth it for me to try because I am kind of curious about it. Legends Arceus has turn-based combat with real-time movement. Legends ZA is fully real-time action. Oh, it's technically only been true turn-based for 4 games even. Yes it does. The only difference is that you have a move be faster, which gives you more turns like Final Fantasy X or make it a stronger attack. You bought it and never played it once. Wait, which one? Which one did I buy? Oh, yeah, Legends Arceus. I found it on sale. And then I picked it up, and everybody said it played different, so I thought that I would give it a try. To be fair, you know what happened? Oh, no, wait. Did you donate Legends Arceus? You donated the money for Legends Arceus. Yeah. And then I ended up finding it. I didn't hate it, but I think I wasn't in the Pokemon mood at the time. I didn't engage with it as much as I probably should have. That's why I said Pokemon is the inverse. You can get them for like $40, $45 right now on Woot. It was like $35 a week ago. Yeah, you and I both know that won't happen. Yeah, and that's why I say like there's probably no way that I'm going to do it. So, Wind and Waves is well, I mean they're far off, right? It's at least next year for Wind and Waves. So I guess it would have to be finding something relatively cheap. You also picked Rowlet. Yes, I did pick Rowlet. Or $20 ROMs. I wonder if... Okay, Marcos. I don't think it's going to work for Red and Green. I don't think doing this would work for Red and Green because Red and Green are just remakes of Red and Blue of Gen 1, and I like Gen 1. Again, I had never played Red and Green, but I already have opinions about Pokemon Gen 1, and I feel like I need to do it with a fresh game. Getting one of the modern games, I'd recommend Scarvio over Sword and Shield, even though I really like Sword and Shield. 3 main fighters, 3 HM users for FRLG. Oh, later, Apple, have a good one. The only Final Fantasy I beat was OG7. Of you, are you getting one of the modern games? If you're getting one of the modern games, I recommend Scarvio. Oh yeah, I read that already. It's time for me to head out and get Pokopia. Oh wait, is Pokopia out today? Is that today? That Pokopia? Pokopia. Is that today? Oh, it is today. Holy smokes. Oh, wow. Someone mentioned Final Fantasy and its combat. OG7 was going to have action combat instead of turn-based, which means that people who complained about the combat in the remakes are wrong. You know what game needs action? You know what Final Fantasy game needs action combat? 8. If you make 8 an action combat game, I think it'll be a lot more well-received. I actually think he's enjoying Sword and Shield more than Scarvio, but Scarvio did get the graphical Switch 2 overhaul. They do have the quality of life features of Gen 3. So while the template is Gen 1, there's more to it than just being a new coats of paint. So maybe it will work. Sword and Shield is everything wrong with Pokemon Personified, but Scarlet and Violet doesn't work. Pokopia got really good reviews. Thought it would be a 7 or 8 or a 6 or... No, we don't do that anymore, right? We're done with 6 and 7. Are we done with that as a meme? Thank God. We're out. I made it out. That always surprises me with cold. Yeah, I mean, I felt like Pokopia... I felt like people are going to enjoy it for what it is. I wonder if Pokopia is going to be grabbing in new fans. If it's going to be, oh, I never really liked Pokemon games before, but this game looks awesome. Like, I'm curious to know if that would be the case. I played 7. If 7 played, I'm guessing it's 8. If 8 played like 7 remake, it would be amazing. Was that supposed to be 8, Dracus? Yeah, it's going to grab more cozy gamers. I'm debating something. Would you feel comfortable covering the difference for Scarvio if I donated $40? No, I would rather you not do that. I would rather you not do that because this is all speculation right now, and I appreciate that, but I don't think I would feel super comfortable doing that. Yeah, I forgot an I. I appreciate that though. Thank you. I would love if 8 got the rebirth treatment. Yeah, I don't think it's enough for me to say I'm gonna rush out and buy one, but if I can get one on sale, we'll check the shop. For all I know, it's on sale right now. Rebirth gameplay with Final Fantasy VIII soundtrack. Like, that's the game to play. Why was it? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 8 had other issues, but as a turn-based game, I think as a action combat game, I think would be great. Final Fantasy VIII reshuffled. It does. It is a reference to Triple Triad. Physically on Amazon and Woot Scarvio is $45 ish. I don't trust buying games off of Amazon anymore. I had a game stolen. It was taken out of the case, so I actually don't trust buying games on Amazon anymore. I have a Best Buy near me. I have a Target near me, and I've got Walmarts that I can get to. I would rather just go to a store. I used to have GameStops, but I think they all closed. 8 is definitely a soundtrack that came with an average RPG. Oh, yeah, because they were called Guardian Forces, Stone, right? Weren't the summons called Guardian Forces? Final Fantasy VIII Regarded? Oh, Final Fantasy VIII Regarded. And it's a play on words because it's like the Guardian Forces again, but it's also like regards. Oh. Gameplay of 7 remake, but the story remains the same. I would make it simpler. I would make Draka. I'd probably scale the story back just a little bit, and then increase individual moments, because I think that was my problem. That was one of my problems with 8, was that I just didn't particularly care about some of the characters. I didn't like Squall. I liked Selphie because I thought she was adorable. I liked Renoa to an extent, and that was it. Like, I didn't really care about Irvine, and I'm Ultimecia. I was just like, I don't really care about any of these characters. Assuming I'm not mixing it up with 10, right? I think I got all the characters separated. Yeah, Renoa, not Yuna. Zell was cool. Zell was cool, but I also didn't care about him. I didn't care what was going to happen to him. Fake ass bouncer character. And the Guardian Forces had skill trees. Like, I'd probably remove some of that too. Final Fantasy VIII Shattered Times. The plot would secretly involve Ultimecia or that OG trapped witch trying to stop the events of Final Fantasy VIII from happening. I'm not annoyed that 7 are playing loose and not loose like this. You mean the Kingdom Hearts characters or the Dissidia characters? Did we talk about the death of Highguard? No. We're gonna get there. Like I said, we got Highguard is something that I wanted to talk about too. Yeah, I wouldn't mind something like that. I mean, that's, I've often said that 8 wasn't a terrible game. It was probably a little bit longer than it needed to be, but it wasn't a terrible game. It's just very, very easy to break. And which again, I don't particularly think is a problem because you can just choose not to do that. But it also kind of felt like a nothing burger, like nothing, very little in that game hits really hard. And I think personally, I think it's because I don't care about the characters. The only time I really cared about the characters in Final Fantasy VIII was the Eyes on Me scene in I think it was disc 3. Cost. Hold on. Cost. Final Fantasy VIII reseeded. Yes. That's the name I would go with. Final Fantasy VIII reseeded. Yes. You can choose not to break the game. I don't want to. I don't want to limit myself in Pokemon. So there is a difference there because I heard that when I said it too. There is a difference there. Pokemon games are generally, if you play it in a normal sense, the way the game tells you to play it, the game's too easy. The game's too easy. If you play Final Fantasy VIII the way the game tells you to, I think it is not terribly difficult. Like, it's not terribly easy. I actually don't think that the difficulty in Final Fantasy VIII is that unbalanced one way or the other. But without even trying, you can break the game. You can break the game. It is similar. I will say that. I don't feel like put it this way. I'm not limiting myself in Final Fantasy VIII. I just have to actively not try to break the game. Because if you don't try to break the game in Final Fantasy VIII, you're fine. If you don't go out there and junction 100 flares to your attack stat doesn't grow so ridiculously high. Pokemon, I'm not over-leveling my characters. I'm not junctioning spells to them, and I'm not hitting them with a bunch of level-up candies or anything. I am playing Pokemon games the way it intends me to, and I feel like the game is too difficult. When I play Final Fantasy VIII and I play it the way it's intended to, and I don't purposely go out of my way to overpower my characters, the difficulty's not that bad. It's just you can inadvertently overpower yourself without even realizing. By the time I realized what was happening in Final Fantasy VIII, that I was making it too easy, I had 99 Ragnaroks or whatever junction, and my characters were on stop. I made Squall so powerful, I didn't use his skills. I just used his fight command, and his fight command was hitting 4 9s all the time. I think not breaking 8 makes it even less fun. So then you would want there to be something else in the combat that makes it more interesting. Back in an ad. Reseeded is another way of saying wait, oh, you're saying, okay, do you really want that name? Yes, I would like that name. Reseeded. Because it also means you take something back. Right? Because reseed. So you take something back. Connie, not too much. We're just talking about Pokemon and how it's garbage. That's not what we're talking about. But difficulty isn't the issue. It's just bland. Glad to see SGB. Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate anybody who checked out the newest SGB video. We are back. Final Fantasy VIII Recommed it is. So I'm saying it's okay to break it to be easy, but not to self-impose it to make it harder. Well, no, I'm not. I'm saying that it's not that great in Final Fantasy VIII either. I like that the option is there, but my problem with Final Fantasy VIII is that you can do it inadvertently. You can do it like you're engaging in the system of Final Fantasy VIII, and all of a sudden you just break the game. I don't know. Maybe I'm backwards on that. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass on that one. Y'all were extra silly that episode. Yeah, that was a fun episode. When we recorded that the other on Sunday, I remembered like after the first part, I was like, "That's awesome." I'm just so happy to be back. Final Fantasy VIII has Squall and a TCG. The TCG is my favorite. I think Triple Triad is probably my favorite mini game out of all Final Fantasy games. Squall is one of my least favorite characters in Final Fantasy games. I cannot stand characters like him, especially when he has characters around him that are fun and trying to be fun, and he just doesn't want to engage in them. Yeah, I can't stand it. Squall was a joke. Yeah, agreed. Squall was a joke. And I got fooled about bought MK1 DLC. Oh no. Fooled and bought MK1 DLC. SGB back with the Shitty MK story. Hope one day you guys redo the Sly games. Kind of wild they made a whole ass RPG as a side mode for Triple Triad. All right. Okay. So there were two other big pieces of news that came up because we haven't actually talked about those. Piece of news number one, Highguard is shutting down a week from today. March 12th, Highguard is shutting down. Oil change complete and eight at home for lunch. Highguard is shutting down. Hold on. Let me find the article for it. Highguard shutting down because they did an announcement and they said some stuff that kind of bothered me. Shutting down. Wasn't that well? We didn't talk about it, Stone, because this was what 2 days ago. Yeah, we didn't have a chance to talk about it. It was after Tuesday's stream. Okay. I want to find. All right. So this is what it was. I'm gonna bring this over here so I can read it easier. I'm going to look at the IGN article just for some of this information. I'll link the article to you here. Highguard to permanently shut down on March 12th. Wildlight to release one final update with new warden, a new weapon, skill trees, and more. Schreier Bloomberg covered what happened in the studio right before the shutdown. I tried to go to Bloomberg, and Bloomberg makes you sign up for their page, so I don't read articles like that. I'm on IGN. I'm gonna jump here and say I actually like Squall. For the most of the game, he can be unbearable, and I cannot blame anyone for not liking his standoff attitude. Like he gets a little bit better later, right? Not before, but the months before and the weeks after launch. We all speculated that it was going to shut down. We thought it was going to be another Concord, and now it actually is. I mean, it's not another Concord. The game lasted longer than 2 weeks, and they're not refunding any purchases you made, as far as I can tell. Wildlight has announced that it will be permanently shutting down Highguard on March 12th. Before then, it will release one final update that adds a new warden, a new weapon, account level progression, skill trees for those who want to get their final matches in. Wildlight shared the news on X Twitter, saying, today we're sharing difficult news. We've made the decision to permanently shut down Highguard on March 12th. I mean, what I have a problem with is kind of right here, but I'm going to finish reading the thing so that you understand the extent of it. Depending on your in-game choices, Squall either gets better or flips into stalker mode. Might be late on this. Saudi's oil barons trying to buy video games to influence people or something, or is it just a wild take? No, I don't know. I don't know. Connie, I don't think it's to influence people. I think they just want to make money and they want to control it. Since launch, more than 2 million players have stepped into Highguard's world. It's a free-to-play game. Like, 2 million is great. They tried to engage in it, but if you got 2 million people to play to try your game and they didn't like it, that's kind of a problem. You shared feedback, created content, and many believed in what we were building. For that, we are deeply grateful. Despite the passion and hard work of our team, we've not been able to build a sustainable player base to support the game long-term. Servers will remain online until March 12th. We hope you'll jump in with us one more time and show your support and get those final great matches in while we still can. The team is excited to release one final game update to enjoy in the remaining life of the game. We'll be adding a new warden, new weapon, account level progression, and skill trees. Full patch notes are coming, and we're targeting tonight or tomorrow morning for patch release. I think this was from 2 days ago. When was this article from? 2 days ago. So if there's the new update, it should be available now. From all of us at Wildlight, thank you for playing and for supporting us and for being part of Highguard's story. All right. So, first and foremost, I'm going to say this first and foremost. Let this be an asterisk on this entire conversation. I am not happy that they are going to lose their jobs, probably. I am not happy about that. I don't want game devs to lose their job because I don't like the game. I don't want anybody's career to suffer and for their lives to suffer because I didn't particularly think that their video game looked interesting, because I didn't try it, but I looked at it and I've seen other games like this and I said, it looks kind of blah to me. I don't really see anything of value there. Obviously, the Jeff Keighley thing is a big issue. You know, people talked about him promoting the game in a way, and there's speculation about whether or not he promoted it too much or whether it was just him promoting it at all. You know, it's one thing for it to have been the last thing in the Game Awards. It's another thing to find out that it wasn't going to be the last thing in the Game Awards, but because he liked it, he brought it into the high point of the show, right? He tried to end the show with it. So I don't know how much of that is Jeff Keighley's fault. What I will say, though, is it's not all of Jeff Keighley's fault. This game didn't collapse because Jeff Keighley said it was going to be a good game. There sounds like there are problems within this game. And without playing the game, I can't say firsthand. What I can say, though, is in this letter, they said two things that bothered the hell out of me. Says more than 2 million, something to Highguard. For that, we're deeply grateful. Despite the passion and work of a hard team, we've not been able to build a sustainable base. Servers will remain online until March 12th, which means all of these changes that they're going to do, you have a week to play them. So I don't know if in the week people are going to discover that's amazing, that it's amazing, and they should keep the game alive. You shouldn't be punished for a game not succeeding for things beyond your control. The team is excited to release one final update to enjoy in the remaining life of the game. We'll be adding a new warden, a new weapon, account level progression, and skill trees. My mind was a little blown when I read that because I immediately thought this is a free-to-play online game. I'm sure you're selling things. I know there's got to be like a battle pass or something, or some sort of season pass, and you don't have account level progression and skill trees. These things are not built into your game. Even skill trees, you can kind of like, all right, maybe it's not the kind of game for that, right? There are no skill trees in Marvel Rivals or anything. So, but account level progression, assuming I'm understanding that correctly, your character doesn't go up through levels and possibly get things for it. Like, is that what am I reading that right? This doesn't sound like the kind of game that should have launched without that kind of feature. So I went and I checked. I was trying to find out when the original release date was for the game, because what I was thinking was happening was that Jeff Keighley promoted the game, so they pushed up the release date, and pushing up the release date meant that it had to launch without some of this stuff. And I don't know if that's correct or not, but everything I found said that the game was supposed to release on January 26th. And that's when it released. So I'm like, so they released the game when they planned on releasing the game, but it was missing a bunch of features? That is not a good thing for a game. I don't know, man. Like, imagine Helldivers 2 launched, and they said, oh, by the way, your character leveling up through the game, that's not in the game. Right, you drop down. These are your weapons, and then that's it. And there's no progression through your character. Like, obviously different kinds of games, but that's a feature that if it's the kind of game where you need that feature, you need that feature. It had its Overwatch issues. The game was originally going to Shadow Drop, so they delayed the game. And it still didn't have some of these features. That's not a good idea. I don't really think that that's a good thing to do, especially for key features. A new warden and new weapon, fine. I expect that you're going to release DLC. That makes perfect sense. Account level progression not being there is kind of strange to me. Skill trees, again, if it's not the kind of game that skill trees really matter, that's not really a big deal. But I also think that skill trees is probably a significant feature that would have made the game feel different. Think they plan on launching an EA Lite and building on it later, similar to their prior work on Apex. They also likely had pressure from Tencent to launch on that date and meet certain metrics, would be my guess. So, yeah, I don't put all of this on Jeff Keighley because it does sound like a lot of things in this game were kind of half-cooked, and they weren't ready to go, and they probably shouldn't have been. Again, I don't want anybody to lose their job over this, but this doesn't feel like it was everything that it was supposed to be. And I don't think that there was... And the Shadow Drop thing is kind of weird because I don't know that even saves the game. I feel like that doesn't save the game. I think that for a game like this, some of the other, as much as some people don't like hearing about a lot of these games, I do think that some of them have done it kind of right. You know, people get annoyed at Marathon, right? Marathon's going to come out soon, and people are like, oh, we don't need one of these, blah blah blah. I think Marathon has actually gotten a decent amount of attention. It probably got a little bit too much, or is getting a little bit too much, but I think that Marathon is in people's minds. We're talking about it. We understand what it's going to be. So the people that want to play that game are going to know exactly where to go when it's time to play Marathon. Highguard, I don't know, man. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and where it came out of is not everything, but it's definitely a factor that it was a Game Awards Jeff Keighley thing, and that whole story does taint it a little bit. But then it comes out and it's missing giant features. I think those are big features. So for that to not have that, that's not Jeff Keighley's fault. Yeah, Keighley didn't do it any favors. Keighley did not do with the game any flavors. But yeah, I also can't put it all on him. I think that there were a lot of bad choices here, and there were exclusions that were made. We have a week to play it. If we want to play it, we have a week. Waiting at GameStop, it's shockingly busy. They decided to release the game half-assed, trying to be Fortnite. Uma Musume's global launch. Uma Musume's global launch in a genre that's as cutthroat as possible. Yeah, and people said, you know, there were some people saying the same thing. It's a Pokemon, right? There were some people saying similar things about Concord, and even I said it, and that's something that I fully admit that I got wrong with Concord. Was we're tired of hero shooters. People said that we're tired of hero shooters, or maybe there's too many extraction shooters, or maybe there's just too many shooters in general. And then Rivals came out and dominated the scene. So we weren't completely tired of hero shooters. So this game, because it's basically an extraction shooter, right? Highguard is Highguard treated like an extraction shooter, or is it more like a hero shooter? There have been some people that are saying that we're fatigued for these kind of games. It's like, no, we're not fatigued for these kind of games. I think we're just fatigued for bad ones. We're just, you know, the reason people don't want to engage in some of these games is because we're pretty sure they're going to die out soon. You know, and this said, oh, well, you can enjoy the game for as long as you have it with the updates. Great. I have a week to enjoy account level progression. What is that going to do? That's not going to do anything. I wouldn't even have 2 weekends to play it, because it's March 12th is when it goes away, which is next Thursday. Rivals came out when everyone was sick of Overwatch's BS. So it was replacing something people were leaving en masse. Not a bad observation. You're right. Overwatch did have a lot of crap going on, and Activision had a lot of crap going on. It still does. Concord should have been a space adventure type game. The main trailer doesn't even tell you it's a hero shooter. Yeah, you're right. We figured that out after. Remember? Rivals came out when Overwatch was running itself into a wall full force. Some of these types of games are better than others. We should do that, Connie. I'm gonna be a Highguard streamer for a week. Space got made for Rivals, and that's the other thing. And Rivals was good. Rivals is a good game. You gotta have the skill to capture good opportunities in the first place. I do worry Marathon is getting overhyped because it went from unplayable to playable. And I watched the trailers for it, and I thought Marathon doesn't look terrible. As a gameplay loop, as a gameplay, like, actual experience, I don't think it looks terrible. I don't know how I would feel about extraction shooters. I never played the finals. There's the finals. There's another one, I think. And then there's Arc Raiders. I think Arc Raiders is an extraction shooter. And I wasn't playing like Division back then. So I think the multiplayer for Division 2 was extraction shooter based. Passing on Highguard's grave before the body's cold, and Marathon stole most of his art. I trust Bungie to make a fine enough shooter, but fine enough isn't enough to make me care after Destiny left me wanting. Which I didn't play Destiny. Destiny seemed like something that I didn't. I had a feeling Destiny was something that I might have gotten really wrapped up in. Yeah, I hear the finals is really good. I do like Marathon's aesthetic with it being kind of this training dummy futuristic type design. If Marathon Bungie fails, what do you think Sony is going to do? Buy them, close them, sell them. I used to play a ton of Destiny. I rarely hear anyone talk about Overwatch. It's mostly about the company. Well, Overwatch just had a little bit of a resurgence because they dropped Overwatch 2, and now it's just Overwatch again. They at some point they brought back the 6v6, which people were really missing, and they supposedly did make some changes. There's now a roadmap for more characters, which, you know, here and there, whether or not there's too many characters in games like that. I think I worry though that I wonder though if not worry. I wonder if the people that left Overwatch found Marvel Rivals and just don't want to leave. They just like it better. They like the characters better. And maybe they trust the company a little bit more, which I don't really trust any company nowadays, but maybe they trust that. And I can say this, I feel more confident that the company behind Rivals won't blow up the game. I don't feel like we're going to turn a corner and Rivals 2 is going to come out and it's going to eliminate all of your progression in Rivals 1, and they're going to change the battle format, right? It's going to be 4v4. Like, I don't feel like Rivals is going to do any of that. I feel like, if anything, they have Overwatch's example to not do that. So now that Overwatch is kind of back to where it was, I'd be curious to know how many people are going to go back and stay back. Because I saw a bunch of people going back to playing Overwatch. I saw a bunch of that. And then they pop up back on my feed and they're back playing Rivals. Or they're back playing whatever it was that they were doing. Overwatch 2 promised a roadmap before it was turned back into 1 and threw that map away for a new Trust Us map. Speaking of ArtGrader, we just found out its Discord implementations means it can read your DMs and info. Woo! I'll play 3 rounds of Rivals and then play 3 rounds of Overwatch. They don't want to leave or can't play more than one game. Overwatch of today is fine. The emergence of Rivals was a good shock to their system, as well as a kick in the shins that was the PvE debacle. The idea of Bluepoint not having any work or good proposals, including a God of War multiplayer game at the same time as the God of War Trilogy remake was getting pitched, boggles my mind. Competition is good for both Rivals and Overwatch. Oh boy, 2 cakes. Yeah, I'll play both. You know, and there's still I'm like this where it's like it's Activision though. It's you know, it's like Psylocke or Widowmaker. Silo Maker or neither. Like I watched over the marathon footage and I was like, this actually looks kind of decent. I watched the finals and I thought that looked kind of good, but again, extraction shooter, and there ended up being like stuff like the finals bothers me depending on who's promoting it. And when I see certain people promoting it for certain things, I'm like, I kind of don't want to play that game. May or Squirrel Girl? Whoa. I don't know. Executor, May or Squirrel Girl? I guess it depends on how cold I want my nuts. Yeah, I don't know. Apparently they pitched a Bloodborne remake. FromSoft said no. Then they pivoted to an original multiplayer God of War project, and that didn't do well either, it seems. Zing! FromSoft must have a lot of stuff cooking to turn it down now of all times. The finals has a massive multiplayer aspect that's like X-Defiant. What? Ronan, you know all the things to say to make me engage in something. Finals has a massive multiplayer aspect that's like X-Defiant. Explain. Because X-Defiant was mostly a deathmatch kind of game. You've played it. Yeah, like what makes it like X Defiant? Because I loved X Defiant, and I'm still kind of sad that game went away. That's definitely the one where I understand that I am in the vast minority when it comes to liking that game. The finals also has AI in their voice lines. Yeah, that's not great. Yeah, I just remember seeing some stuff about the finals, and I thought, nah, I don't think I dig that. What I did like with finals is the character design. And yes, there is some gooning. There is a little bit of gooning in the finals, but it still looks good. Oh, arena like COD with respawning. Yeah, see, that's fun to me. I like that stuff. It's also important to note that Sony owns the rights to Bloodborne, which means Bloodborne Remaster on PS5 exclusive, which we'll talk about in a second. There are 4 or 5 different permutations of the Bloodborne story of who's to blame. And I can't help but feel it's a distraction from the fact that they shut down a fantastic studio because of a live service, but no one wants it. Well, I think they shut the studio down, and then that just brought the conversation back. I think it just brought the conversation back to, wow, they're closing it down, and we never got Bloodborne. Except wasn't a Bloodborne. Well, that's what we're saying, Sean. That's what we're saying is like that's something that probably would have been successful for what it was, and they shut it down. X Defiant had potential, but Ubisoft didn't want to support it. Yeah, and that was evident, Van, by the fact that they didn't support it for very long. There was no roadmap, and there was no expectation of a roadmap for what they were going to do. And I don't necessarily need a roadmap, but I do need to feel like we're going to get some sort of content regularly. And in the time that the game released, I think they only added one faction, maybe a second one. They didn't really add anything to the game. They asked FromSoft multiple times out of respect, and FromSoft said no multiple times, according to various people over the years. As much as it's been fun to bash Sony nowadays, let's be real, FromSoft didn't want it either, which is kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy that they wouldn't want that. Yeah, Sony obviously doesn't want to anger FromSoft though. If they go off with their IP on their own, then they might get shafted on the next Elden Ring game or game FromSoft makes. I mean, my only real connection to FromSoft is Armored Core. So I would like Armored Core 7 to be on the PS5. I need to do a run of Bloodborne again soon. I love that game. Who cares if there's gooning in it? There's nothing wrong with gooning. Overwatch and Marvel Rivals are full of it. People that act like it's bad are insufferable. Draketh, agreed. But there are games where it's unnecessary or it's distracting. There are some games where it doesn't work. I once again will point to Babylon. I think it was Babylon's Fall. I always forget which one it was. I think it was Babylon's Fall that had a relatively gritty atmosphere, except for the female characters who had long legs, all had heels, and had these goofy looking supermodel walks with them. It was like their whole walk cycle was bizarre. And it's like, all right, well, they were blatantly put in there to goon. Sure, but you can put stuff in there to goon that fits the environment, and then you can put stuff in there to goon that is not like anything else you're looking at, right? It was the classic of all of the male characters were the big armor, right? Big muscular dudes, but not in a sexy way. They had armor and everything. And then the female characters were literally wearing short skirts and high heels. There's a way to do it right, and there's a way to do it wrong. There is tons of gooning in Marvel Rivals, right? Swimsuits, asses, cheeks sticking out. But it's kind of everywhere. Like it would be one thing if we said, "Oh, you're supposed to goon over the female characters and not the male characters." That can't even be the case because, let's be honest here, the best ass in the game is Venom's. You have characters in there that it looks like a goon fest across the board, and it works. So it shouldn't, if it stands out too much, that's going to be kind of an issue. Loki's beachwear has a giant bulge. Like, it's there. It's all there. And that kind of helps, because you look at it and you're like, oh, of course they made Emma's ass big, right? Oh, Emma's thighs jiggle. Never seen that before. But yeah, so are the other ones. So's Captain America with his big giant chest out with his swimsuit costume on, or like you said, Loki with a bulge. Like all of that stuff is there across the board. Like, yes, they are gooning. They're gooning everywhere. I would know, since the game died really fast, because again, live service game. There's no law that says you can only goon. Yeah, what the hell are you talking about? There's no law that says you can only goon to women. No. I hope we're not disagreeing here. No, I think you should be gooning to everybody. But I think it stands out. I think it stands out when the game only goons to female characters. And I think it was Babylon's Fall. I think that was the one. It was either Babylon's Fall or Lost something, or I forget which game it was. Wait, Marvel Rivals has inclusive gooning? It really kind of does. I personally think it does. And that's why it's fine. It's fine that it's there. Like, yeah, the people who get all mad about it, and they're like, oh, look at these. Of course they drew the character models like that. Yeah, of course they drew the character models like that. You know why? Because we all like looking at it. You want to look at a bunch of dumpy characters that you don't find interesting in even the slightest? No, I want characters that look cool. I want to jump around. Rule of cool. I want characters that look awesome, and I want them to do awesome-looking attacks. How are we going to watch the game? I can't. Sag, I can't. Have you seen how many people have been going crazy over Leon Kennedy? Yeah, look at RE9. People are gooning like crazy to Leon. Yeah, we love that stuff. We love that stuff. Why would we want ugly characters? We don't want anything like that. The Hawkeye initiative, when you can, it's only on Tumblr. It's the internet. Ignore that smell. Wait, ignore the smell. You can't get it out. Oh, for ugly people representation, I don't need to be represented in games. Listen, I am aware of what this all looks like. I don't need representation in games. My awesome looking character is part of my escapism. They gave Squirrel Girl and I almost became a furry. It's weird that the dudes aren't allowed to be goon worthy. Why do gay men specifically get effed over in this case? Can I get representation? No. So Overwatch is losing to Rivals because there's no third person camera to goon to. Samson. I mean, there is a preference of third person to first person. I don't know if it's specifically because you can't see asses. I will say this, though. I do like third person more than first person, not even for gooning, because I can see my character. Because when I get cool skins, I get to see what they look like. And I get to run around with them. I actually do think that. I actually do prefer third person in those kinds of games, because I get to engage with my character more, because there he is. I'm not trying to be Squirrel Girl. I'm trying to play the game as Squirrel Girl. So when it's third person, I find I enjoy it better. And that's not to say I hate first person games. X Defiant, I believe, was first person. That's a good example too, though. I really liked X Defiant, but I felt no need to buy any skins or anything like that in X Defiant. There was no reason for me to do it because I couldn't see them anyway. I would have been more likely to buy weapon skins. You know what I wouldn't mind buying for first person games like that, first person shooters especially? Stuff for my UI. I would pay a few bucks to have like a different UI elements, or like, right, I'm playing as Groot, so I want to have like vines around the edges of the screens or something. All that goofy aesthetic stuff that we think, why would anybody buy that stuff? If it was $2 or $3, I would buy it. You know what I bought in Rivals for $5, 500 of those points? I bought the emote where I can sit down on a stool. and I get to use it with every character. Like, I like that stuff because I can see it. If there was a $5 emote in a first-person game where I sat on a stool and the only thing that happened was me doing this, like my screen moving down a little bit to represent that I'm sitting on a stool, I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't have bought it because I can't see it happening. When you're buying a $20 skin, I'll take TPS over FPS a 2. Yeah. I would much rather see that. So what I'm hearing is that Arrowhead needs to give all the Hell Divers massive jiggling dumpy. No. You don't need to goon in Hell Divers. Hell Divers is a great example of that. You don't need to goon in Hell Divers. If you're gooning in Hell Divers, it should be for managed democracy, not for asses. I will goon for managed democracy. Last time I mentioned steamed Sam my fat. What's this? Steamed Sam my faves. Springfield Noir. Wait, Connie, what the heck? Hold on, I lost. I think I lost all of that. Oh, Steamed Sam. This guy. Okay, all right. I see what you do. I see them. Thank you, Connie. You goon divers. Pocopia picked up. Plus, I moved most of my Amazon pre-orders to GameStop for safety. Twerking in front of the Super Earth flag. Like, that would be hilarious. But not if I couldn't see it. Corporate slop bowl. Wait. Yeah, so wrapping around back to Highguard, it sucks that people are probably going to lose their jobs over this. Obviously, for even if they stay with the company, there might not be anything for them to do unless they just move on to the next game. I don't blame Jeff Keighley though for everything. I do think that Jeff Keighley caused a lot of problems with this game. I think that at the very least, even if the game wasn't popular, I think it would have lasted longer if Keighley hadn't done what he done, and if the game was allowed to come out in a natural way, in a natural state, in something that is a bit more complete. I think that the very least is that the game would have lasted a little bit longer. It would have lasted enough time for you to take advantage of account level progression and skill trees. And now it's not. Now you're going to get all of this stuff. Dicks out for democracy. Now you're going to get all of this stuff, and you've got a week to enjoy it. You've got a week right now to download Highguard, download this patch, this DLC, and take advantage of it. Take advantage of a bunch of features that should have been there a month ago. Oh, they already have the big layoff a few weeks ago. I don't think the industry will ever be the same after the last 3 years. Something like over 30,000 jobs lost, I think. Yeah, I mean, we knew gaming wasn't going to be the same. Starting like 10 years ago, I think that's when you started to see a changeover into certain things, into certain behaviors. Right, the console wars basically ended, and even console versus PC kind of ended, and that's all set to come back because this is the best segue. That's a great segue. Don't waste that 500 kg bomb. No, waste that 500 kg bomb so that they don't hit me with it by accident. Spread eagle for democracy. Wait, I like that one. So the last topic that I have, and I have a feeling this is going to be the one. This is going to be like, if we get the Minish cap, it'll be a miracle. Sony is reportedly moving away from PC ports. This is from The Verge. I'll give you this one here. Hold on. What do 500 people do named KG? I don't know. The last time we left something up to a KG, didn't it release Mighty Number 9? PlayStation is reportedly moving away from PC ports. It sounds like PlayStation's putting its focus back on console exclusives. According to a report in Bloomberg, Sony's gaming division is moving away from porting PS5 games to PC, which reportedly includes canceling plans for a PC port of Ghost of Yotei. It's a big change from a few years ago when Sony said it wanted half of its games available on PC and mobile by 2025. As part of that goal, some of its brand's biggest franchises, including Last of Us, Horizon, and God of War, made their way to PC. This month alone, we see the launch of PlayStation-backed PC titles, including the multiplayer shooter Marathon and Kojima Productions' Death Stranding 2. Bloomberg reports notes that the PlayStation ports didn't sell particularly well, which could be a reason for the shift. It also cautioned that plans could change in the future. Sony hasn't commented. First of all, with Marathon, I wasn't entirely sure like how Marathon was being treated. I'm assuming that one's still going to be on PC. We are evolving backwards. Sony is now trying to panic shut the door. GameStop employees tried to hire me on the spot, which is wild and flattering. Being around for my mom is the current priority. Absolutely. The first thing I'm going to say about this is the reception of this news, for what I've seen on social media, the reception for this news looks like it's all over the place. I have seen people saying that they're fine with it. Ryan, I'm actually fine with it too, but we'll talk about it a little bit more elaborately. I've seen people saying that this is going to be a disaster for them. Let's see. I saw a comment that said, let's see how they handle this when they don't have that revenue coming in. I've seen people that are overjoyed with it and say, no, this should have happened a long time ago. They shouldn't have been releasing PC games in the first place. To me, this is just PC players whining that they don't have everything. Multiplayer games are probably going to come to PC, but their biggest simple, like the single player stuff. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Stone, I hate this anti-consumer stuff. Like, people have been saying stuff like that. I have to say I'm actually kind of happy for this. I think that this makes more sense. I think that now you can develop games with a single piece of hardware in mind. So hopefully that makes the games better. Now there feels like there's a reason to have consoles. And if you don't want the console, then you don't want the console. That's totally fine. You don't have to buy everything. You don't have to have everything, and you don't have to want to have everything. If the PlayStation 5 just doesn't have the games you want, then you don't buy a PlayStation 5. But if it does, you have to make a choice. I don't think it's anti-consumer to make a product that people want to buy. I don't think that's the case. Is it anti-consumer that you like the burgers better at Burger King than McDonald's? It's not anti-consumer that you have to go to one place in order to buy the food that you like. There's competition. It's going to be out there. You're going to have preferences. There's going to be things that you like and things that you don't. Just like there are people out there who love PlayStation stuff and don't buy a Nintendo system. It's going to be the case. It's not anti-consumer to not give consumers everything they want. It's just consumerism. That's what it is. It's consumerism. Sony can't cry when Capcom, Xbox, and other publishers start raking in the money after the next decade. I'm indifferent, but I'm laughing at all this. Is a good thing. People are not flipping. Thank God PC ports are dead. Now that they don't have to justify it anymore. I would have thought Demon's Souls would be out on PC by now. Guess it might not happen. With Xbox shutting down soon, PC is now viable competition. This is their pivot. I wonder if Xbox's situation does kind of alter Sony's direction a little bit. I wonder if they are looking at Microsoft and saying, well, if the Xbox goes away, we will be the dominant high-end console system. You know, for a while there, it was PlayStation or Xbox, and you kind of got a similar experience out of each of them. And now, Microslop, I'm sorry. And now that's not really the case. You know, something that I had talked about a long time ago was that everybody was in a good spot right now. The Nintendo Switch and now the Switch 2 is going to be weaker than the other systems, but it's portable, it's on the go, and its first-party exclusives are its bread and butter. You know, I don't think there's ever going to be a company out there whose first-party exclusives are as important to them as Nintendo's are. They are, and I don't even know that they're like more than 50% of their sales, but it is significant. Even if you remove Pokemon, right? You kind of have to remove Pokemon because I feel like Pokemon just skews. Pokemon skews like there's no contest if you include Pokemon. But even with that, even without that, obviously you've got Mario and Zelda and Metroid and Animal Crossing and Pikmin, and you have all of these exclusive franchises to them. So that is their bread and butter. And Sony hasn't really felt like they've had bread and butter because it's eventually going to come to PC. And now they're going to kind of not do that anymore. Because Sony did PC ports, many Sony fans justified it as secretly a good thing, and now flipping back to good is exclusive. Sony fans justified it as secretly a good thing. Did Sony fans justify it as a good thing, or did PC fans of Sony's games justify it as a good thing? Because people who had PS4s probably didn't care that the game was coming to PC. Why would they care? Why would I say, oh, thank God God of War is coming to PC? If you're a hardcore Sony fan, you bought it. Also got to remember, Sony makes money off of people buying stuff on the PS Store and on the system itself. They want people in the ecosystem, which is the more important part. It's why they sold PS2s and 3s at a loss, because of the DVD and Blu-ray player installation. And Ryan, we talked about that. We talked about how Sony games showing up on Steam is kind of wild because Steam takes a chunk of that money, and I was surprised that Sony even did that. I was surprised that Sony was even going to say, yeah, let's put our games on a marketplace where someone else is going to take a chunk of the money when we have our own marketplace. It was kind of wild that they even considered doing that. They sure did. Yeah, that's like the PC fans wanted some of those Sony games because they wanted to mod them. They wanted to add in their favorite characters, and they did. Right? We've got Sephiroth running around Resident Evil 2. Even though Resident Evil 2 is probably going to be multi-platform anyway. I think anti-consumer is more that the games are still $60 or $70 when the console maker, game developer, and storefront are all the same company. I mean, I think it's anti-consumer that you charge the exact same for digital games as you do for physical games, but that's just me. Rest in peace, Gran Turismo PC port. Yeah, 25% of mods are goon-like. That's a joke? Connie, are you sure about that? Are you sure that's a joke? Because I don't know. That seems like it's statistically accurate. There's a burger war happening. Waiting until I leave to learn more. What? Burger war? I think for Sony it makes sense since apparently PC ports sold 800K while on PS5 it's 16. I think I would have thought that as to the revenue stuff, I would have thought that the PC ports actually did really well. But if that's accurate, Mr. Roche, hi, Mr. Roche, if that's accurate that they're selling like 800K while the PlayStation version is selling 15 or 16 million, this is probably just a move to take away the effort that's required to put it there. You know, that's probably what's going on here. Not to mention some of the PC ports didn't typically come out the same day, which means that after the dev cycle and after while the DLC cycle is going on, the DLC development cycle is going on, you're now having to make these games work for PC. And I wonder if they just don't want to put that effort in anymore. Some games sell better. Some games sell better than others on PC compared to PS5. So yeah, I wonder if that has to do with it. If it's just the overhead to make that work, and they're just like, we don't want to do that anymore. Sony is now forced to make better games to sell their systems. Hopefully they'll be forced to make better, more functional games. I would hope that they also do something with the price of their console, because I mean, like $500 is kind of, unfortunately, kind of where we are right now. But if everything goes up to $700 or $800, that's going to be an issue. I don't think it's anti-consumer to have exclusives, but I can feel it when you offer the option for ports and then take that choice away. So it's justifying the ports. It's funny. It's funny you read it. Wait. Also, they did was to Sony fans justifying the ports initially. Okay. All right. I heard the PC ports do fine enough, but probably not worth the effort when the vast majority of people who are interested in the Sony games already get it on PlayStation. That and the PC versions are always the worst versions. Which I said something the other day, and people kind of questioned it, that there are certain games I'd rather play on certain systems, and I guess I'm not the only one. You know, when a Resident Evil game comes out, a lot of people are more likely to buy it on. Obviously, you want to buy it on the platform that you use the most and that's more accessible to you. But I feel like if you have everything accessible to you, where would you buy a Resident Evil game? And a lot of people would probably say Sony. A lot of people would probably say, yeah, unless I have some specific reason that I want it somewhere else, right? I have every console, but I want to mod the game. Then you're going to buy the PC version. I have every console, and I don't play games on the go, and I want it to look as good as possible. And I don't really like that's me. Like, I don't really like playing on my PC as much as I like playing on consoles because I want to sit on my couch. I'm going to get it on PS5. I want to get it, but I maybe take it on the go, or maybe it's the only system I have. Then I'll buy it on the Switch. But I feel like a lot of people, if they have all of the options available to them, they're going to buy certain games on certain consoles just because. Even after the apocalypse passes, I think those days are over. Gaming rigs are not $800 anymore. I think it's more Sony-controlled dev studios will be making less PC ports. It sounds like they're not going to do them at all, other than maybe the multiplayer games, because that will improve their player base. Think about the new OS as well as hardware for PC. I want PC games because the environment. I won't PC game because the environment is too fast for me to join. Back in my day, console exclusive DLC decided where I played. You're right, KH. You're right. You bought if you had all of the options available to you, you bought Soul Calibur 3 on the system that had the outfits you liked. And if you didn't care about the outfits, then you bought it on the system that you thought was going to be the best performance or the one that you would use the most. Yoda for $199. I bought Atari 5200. They had Connie, I can't tell if you're making a joke there. I bought an Atari 5200. They had the ColecoVision. Okay. I struggle playing games on PC because my hands are not spiders. I can't contort them those ways anymore. To that, I would say you can use a controller on PC. You've been able to do that for a long time, but now the games are very much built for it. So as far as playing on PC being a mouse and keyboard experience, it's not really true anymore. I just don't want to sit at my computer and play games all day. Like, I can't imagine. So I had plans yesterday, and they ended up getting canceled. So I kind of lazed out all day. I didn't even record my Gunpla video. I have to find time to record my Gunpla video this weekend. And I kind of lazed out all day and played Expedition 33. Like, with a few breaks, I played it basically from morning to night. Because it's a very good game. But I would not even remotely do that if the game was on PC. I wouldn't sit here for 12 hours a day and play a game. My PC and my consoles are all hooked up to the same. Unfortunately, my PC and my consoles are all hooked up to the same monitor TV. Craig's blazing out. Hoping the Steam controller helps fix that. Well, I mean, you could just plug a PS4 controller into your. Actually, a PS5 controller I think works out of the box. PS4 needed like an extra download to work. We had to choose between Spawn, Link, or Heihachi. As well as the PC gaming wanted me to type a paper versus a gamepad. Type a paper versus a gamepad. My computer is for taxes, Discord, and YouTube, not high energy consuming gaming. Am I done with E33? No. Later, Sean, have a good one. No, I'm not done with E33. I'll be honest with you. I forgot that the game was an axe, And when I thought all that build up that I was doing on Blue Sky, thinking that the game was ending, was just the end of Act 2. I kind of forgot that the game was in acts, so I really thought it was ending. Now I'm exploring and I'm trying to power up my characters. And I see what somebody said about Final Fantasy VI, where the final area opens up, but now the rest of the world is open to you. I can't understand how y'all are okay with having to pick a system to support, knowing your options are now reduced just because we're used to it. Stone, I think a lot of people don't choose that. A lot of people, that is the only option available to them. It's that I don't have a ton of money. I don't have room for it. Like, for whatever reason, there might be something that holds people from getting everything. Also, the difference could just be desire, right? I didn't buy an Xbox system because there's nothing on Xbox that I would want. So I bought a Switch and a Switch 2, and then my PS5 was a gift. I didn't even buy a PS5 until it was given to me as a gift. I would probably have one by now, but I didn't initially buy my PS5. So there are some people that just can't, they don't actively make that choice that I'm going to pick my platform. There is a limitation that holds them off of buying everything, and then they have to choose. In which case, I am a Nintendo person, so I'm usually going to choose the Nintendo system. Because my PC right next to my desk and right next to my bed, I can easily PC game. And if I could easily PC game, I'd probably do it more. A new WoW expansion is great for unintended gaming marathons. What did I think of the twist? No spoilers. No spoilers for E33. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Please don't spoil it for me. Which I actually don't think there's anything to spoil anymore except the ending of the game. It was just, I wouldn't say I was shocked per se. I actually made myself sad thinking about what it could be that was going on. And then I had to kind of tell myself, like, no, okay, that's not even what's happening and you're sad. So and then I got to the part where they explain everything. It's the end of Act 2 where they really explain everything. And I thought it was good. It was kind of close to what I was thinking. I think I had the wrong people in the wrong positions for what I thought for what my theory of was going on. And it helped bear the brunt of what was happening a little bit. I think it was more, I wasn't really sad or anything when I learned what was going on, specifically because there was so much curiosity about what was happening. It was more of a, oh, that's what's happening, as opposed to, oh my God. Like, yeah. I was like, oh, it was great though. It was fantastic. Why are we okay with limiting options? I don't have money for every console, and the PC I require for work either. Wait, so why are we okay with limiting options? I don't have money for every console and the PC. But then if you don't have the money, why do you have every option? That's why I think Stone, I think the problem is that it's not an active choice that some people are making. Some people, yes, there are some people that are doing it, but some people don't have a huge budget and they have to say, I have saved and saved and saved and saved. And now I have $500 to go out and buy a video game system. Which one am I going to get? It's not a question of actively limiting your choices. It's a question of your choices being limited. And sometimes that's beyond our control. Can't play Mario Party on anything else unless you either emulate it or buy a Switch 2. And we had a whole conversation about emulation last week. Excuse me, Nintendo. But the difference, reason feelings are so complex is that Nintendo never offer PC ports. They're only on Nintendo. Sony opened the door and slammed it shut, which makes people already inside happy. But those trying to come in and out now feel shut out again. So is E33 to Final Fantasy VII inspired or not? That's what I've been hearing. No, I don't think so. I don't think that there's enough there to right. Like, what makes it Final Fantasy VII inspired? It's a 3-party system, right? I don't think that there's anything there that makes me. It's a sad story, right? Like what is it? What would it be? And I'm not asking you directly. I'm just saying that, like, as I play the game, I don't really feel like I'm playing Final Fantasy VII, but better or different. Oh, Stone was talking about game exclusivity. Okay. But yeah, but that's what Stone's saying, right? So if I only have the money for one system, the news that I'm getting less games to choose from is always bad. Sure. But are you now going to not play video games? Are you going to say I can't buy every system, so my choices are limited, so now I'm just not going to buy anything? Or are you going to buy the one that has the most stuff that you want to play, and then later on down the line, you get some of the other ones? To me, it's just PC players mad they don't get taxed at this time. Well, Ryan, that never stopped them before. I mean, the PC Master Race was never about exclusivity or now, you buy everything on PC. No, it was always about the PC versions were the best versions of the games, and mouse and keyboard was better than controller. Like, the PC Master Race has many other reasons why they think it's the best. This is an all or nothing argument. Stone, I'm not sure, like, I don't know. I'm not sure what, like, if I'm even arguing the right or discussing the right point with you, because that's what it feels like. It feels like you're saying, why would you limit yourself? Why not just go buy every system? If you buy every console, then you'll have every, like, is that kind of what you're saying? I'm not, yeah, I think I'm lost there. We live in a scarce world. Scarcity drives choices, and exclusivity is shown to drive console sales. My $2,000 PC plays Terraria perfectly. I also think the feelings being hurt aren't being helped by laughing at PC fans for being spoiled. No, and I don't laugh at anybody for that. Just like I say, some people have to make a choice, and this is something that I think maybe gets lost in it. Some people have to make a choice. Financially, they're not in a position where they can just go out and buy every system, right? The new Nintendo system, the new PlayStation system, and then the games start to become exclusive on that system, and they maybe can't afford it yet. PC is part of that choice. PC is a part of that choice. Sure, we've all got, most of us, if not all of us, have some manner of computer in their homes. But for a lot of people, it's just enough to have a tablet. And just enough to watch YouTube videos and apps and check their email if anybody still uses email. Check your Blue Sky, check your Twitter X if you're still using that. And that's really all that people need. So when it comes down to, I only have $1,000 to do something here, what do I do? Some people have to choose between, if you're talking about gaming specifically, some people have to choose between a game console and a computer. And a computer is strong enough to play some of these games comparably. I'm saying that game exclusivity hurts consumers, and Sony going back on porting to other environments is bad for us at large. Okay, so that's what you're saying. You're not wrong. But when I was asking about, like, the sales numbers and stuff, I think maybe we're wrong about the amount of people that displaces. You're not wrong to say that. You're right. There are a bunch of people that played the Horizon games and God of War and Ghost of Tsushima and were waiting to play Ghost of Yotei, and they were doing it through PC. Because they only have a PC, they don't see the point in having a PS5. So now those games would be locked off from them, as opposed to where they've been playing them before. I am curious as to how many people that we're talking about, though, because if the total number of people that bought Ghost of Tsushima, if you take that total number and 5% of the people who bought Ghost of Tsushima bought the PS5, bought the PC version. In the grand scheme of things, how many people are you locking out? Sure, from a consumer standpoint, it would suck. But how many consumers is that? And I know that that's a hard thing to ask, and I know it sounds harsh, but some people are just gonna be this, and this is why this is kind of what I was saying. I was kind of getting this right earlier when I was saying that it's not anti-consumer to not give consumers every single thing that they want. Just because every game is not available to them on PC, it's not. I don't consider it an anti-consumer practice. It has it been, and I think Dragon said this earlier. If you're mad about anti-consumerism in the idea of console exclusivity, then we should all hate Nintendo, because Nintendo's been the king of that for a very long time now, and they've been very active about how they don't do that. So I don't particularly find it anti-consumer. From the customer standpoint, sure, there's going to be games that they want to play and they can't play, but we already have that now. If you're a Nintendo gamer, are you mad that we don't have God of War? That already is a case. That I think that's already the case, that there are going to be games that people want to play that aren't on the platform that they've chosen. And they can't rush out and buy every platform. So ultimately, there's just going to be games that you don't want to play, or versions of games that you don't want to play. Greg is a war vet from the Video Crash of '83. He knows what's up. No, Connie, even more to the point, I'm not acting like you guys wouldn't know anything about this, but the Crash of '83 wasn't really significant for me. I did remember suddenly being able to get Atari games really cheap, or that my father would show up with a bunch of Atari games. This reminds me more of when consoles got different versions of games. I guarantee you all the kids that had a Super Nintendo and not a Genesis were bummed out because the Genesis version of Mortal Kombat 1 was often seen as the better version of the game. It had the fatalities. I think it moved slightly faster. Like, a lot of kids thought that was the better version of the game, but all they had were Super Nintendo. I don't think it was anti-consumer that the Genesis version of Mortal Kombat 1 was the better version of the game. Although I go back and forth on that. I actually really like the Super Nintendo version. I grew up in that era. I grew up in the era of there's Aladdin on the Super Nintendo and the Genesis. But if you buy the Genesis one, he gets to use the sword. And if you buy the Super Nintendo one, he gets to throw apples. And what the hell is that all about? It was so dumb. Throw Kratos in Daisy shorts and we have a deal. True. I said the opposite of that because Nintendo never offered the choice. And yet there are still people that are mad about it. There are still people that are mad about the anti-consumerism of Nintendo because, sure, Nintendo was from an era where no companies put their video games on PC. And they did start to change that. Except Nintendo. I know what you're saying, but SNES was better for Mortal Kombat 2. I remember when emulating was risky business and 99 chance of a Trojan virus. I think that issues for Stone and others is that they had the choice, and now Sony is saying if you like that game, too bad. You need an OS to play any future sequel. You need us to play any future sequel and such now. That can be frustrating. Again, in this particular unique issue, because Sony is pulling a rug in a kind of unprecedented way. Well, here's my question, though. They're taking this thing away that people have gotten used to. This thing that, let's be fair, wasn't there before. So the two questions could be, should they keep doing it? And also, should they have even done it in the first place? If that's the case, if it's the case that you've gotten used to having these games at some point on PC and now you don't have them anymore, then I do think there's relevancy to the question of whether or not they should have been available in the first place. Because we said in the beginning that this was going to be a problem. To be fair, this is all coming back full circle to something that we said a long time ago when they first started doing this, which is this is bad for their console. This is bad for the console because even with a delayed release, even if the game comes out and then 6 months to a year later, it comes out on PC, there's a lot of people that are just going to wait and they're not going to buy it. And then they're going to buy it on Steam. So then Steam's going to get a chunk of their money. I think there's a valid question here in whether or not this was even the right move in the first place. And I didn't think it was. I thought that console exclusivity should have still been a thing, even if it was multiple consoles. Some games, yes. Some games, you should probably be on PC because that's where people play those kinds of games. Multiplayer shooters with battle passes and stuff should also have a PC component because there's some sort of pass that you make, and not to mention it makes the game better because your player base dictates your player experience. Gundam Evolution, anyone? Gundam Evolution was a great game to play. Except no one was there. And you could barely get into a game. And if you did get into a game, nobody knew what they were doing. It was a bad experience because you didn't have a huge player base. So there are some games that should come to both platforms. And they should be cross-play. But yeah, the God of War and Spider-Mans and stuff, I think that should be exclusive. I think it should be console exclusive. This was like a conditioned mentality. Why should I care about a corporation's profit? Why should I think it's all right for games to be locked to a system just because the majority of players that are in that system? Because it's the way it used to be. Because it's the way it used to be is not a good answer. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say that I don't disagree that it's going to lock out a player base. I don't disagree with that. But I feel like there are I thought the stream froze for a second. I just think that the idea of players being locked out of gaming, I think it's already a thing, and I think it's been a thing this entire time. And I kind of get what Dragoon is saying in the sense that it's because we didn't have the choice before. But I think that there have always been limitations on games, regardless of what it is. There are games out there. There are people that love story-based games, and there are tons of great stories that they're never going to experience. Who here likes a great story in a game? I love a great story. I love amazing moments of action and anger and sadness and happiness. I love all of that stuff. And there's tons of games that I'm never going to experience, that I am locked away from the story experience. Why? Because those games are Soulsborne games. Or they are RPGs that I don't particularly care for. Or they have a bunch of other stuff, right? Fire Emblem games probably have terrific stories that I would really love to engage in. That's a joke. But I won't, because I don't like the combat system, or I don't like some of the stuff that you have to do within the game. There's always going to be games that for one reason or another, we either don't want to engage in, even though we can, or we just can't engage in. I just think that that's true. And this, to me, is just another element of that. There's going to be games that we can't play because we don't want to engage in whatever we have to in order to play it. And I think that's always, and that's why I think it's frustrating, because that sort of limitation has always been there. It just looked different. And it's true, sure. It feels like we were given something and then having something taken away. So we kind of keep wanting that thing. But what's it going to cost for us to keep that thing? What's the company going to do? And I don't mean that from a sense of I worry about the company's profits. I worry about the company's profits in the sense that when the company is not being as profitable as they want to be, they're gonna use it to hamper our experience. And I don't want them to do that. I don't want there to be limitations on it. I want everybody to perform the best that they possibly can within their box, even if it means that the boxes are separate. If Sony makes the best games ever, and they do that because they focus on PlayStation, that's what I want. I don't want them to have to make sure that every time they develop a game, you have to make sure you're working on the PC version, and you have to make sure you're doing this, and you have to make sure you're doing that. If I get the best experience from my games on PlayStation by them making PlayStation games, that's fine. I get that on Nintendo already. One of the reasons I feel like Nintendo experiences are so good is because they focus on those experiences. And this Pokemon game, Pokemon Wind and Waves, one of the reasons I think it looks so good is because they're focusing on the Switch 2. I don't think that it's going to be on the Switch 1. And I know that people are going to say that they're leaving a giant player base behind. I want the game to be the best it can possibly be. And if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. Sure, I'm going to miss out on some stuff. If Xbox suddenly decides that, well, now I technically have access to an Xbox, but if Xbox suddenly decides that they're going to make the greatest game ever and it's only on Xbox, then I have to make the choice to either buy an Xbox or not engage in it. Just like there are foods out there that I think are unbelievable, but I don't engage with them because they cost too much money or they're they're inaccessible. There's always going to be stuff that I just can't do. And I don't think it's anti-consumer that there exists worlds within worlds that I don't get to experience. So if PlayStation games get cut off from people, then it definitely sucks. It definitely sucks. But I want those games to be better because they're on PlayStation. Now, if we keep getting crap, then yeah, I'm gonna say, wow, I wish this was on PC so we could fix it. But I don't want to have to fix it. Yeah, that's my issue with Prime 4. I think it should have been a Switch 2 exclusive. I do too. I think that game should have been developed solely for that. I get that it's early in the Switch 2's life, so they're not doing that yet, but I hope Metroid Prime 5 is a Switch 2 exclusive game. Because it'll be better. It'll be graphically better, it'll be technically better, it'll be a better game. What was the highest tier of Xbox most recent model? Series X. I think the Series X is still the king of Xboxes. Yeah, Prime 4 was announced when the Switch 1 was new. Poor Prime. Multiple ecosystems of consoles and PC that are tailor-made will drive better competition. And it sucks. And it sucks. And I'm sorry that PC players are going to be cut off. They're going to feel cut off from this. And I got news for you. Console gamers have been cut off of PC games for a very long time. There are tons of experiences out there that were PC exclusive, and maybe we're just going to go back to that. Maybe we're going to go back to PC games just being PC games. You know, some crossover, right? Indies especially. I feel like indies will cross over, no problem. But we always had that. We always had games that were inaccessible to us by order of the company. More developers want to develop for PC right now than console. This is on this issue because having PC ports of those Sony games didn't hurt their quality. Well, we don't know. I don't know. I just hate all of this, to be fair. Hey, Neil. So they're 53% of the last game developer survey. And yeah, and I'm not a game dev, so I don't know. Maybe like I said, I can only speak using my opinions as a casual observer from the sidelines. Slightly more than casual observer. But that's just I never felt like I was being cheated out of game experiences when games came to one platform or another. Except there is one time where something came out to a platform and I said, this is ridiculous. Why is it only on this platform? And it was a third-party platform. It was a third-party company. And it was Pixel Remasters Mobile. That's the one time where I thought, oh, being on this platform feels like it's inaccessible to me, even though I did have phones. I did have a phone, so I could have played it. I just had no desire to play games like that on my phone. The era when we did get a PC game on console meant they were neutered versions of those games, like Deus Ex on PS2. We had there a Warcraft game on PS1. Even when Fallout came to consoles, people thought that it was a watered down experience. Like, we're in an era where I don't think we have to do that anymore, but they probably might. Dan, thought you were going to say Sunset Overdrive. I think I have Sunset Overdrive. That's a good exclusive, right? Half-Life 1 had a PS2 port. That's the one I was thinking of. Warcraft 1 was ported to PS1. StarCraft 1 was ported to N64 as well. We had the Command & Conquer games that were on PS1, and they were usually PC games. I mean, most of those sort of strategy type games, Diablo, right? Diablo had a PS1 port. Diablo 1 had a PS1 port? Huh. Oh, no, wait. I remember Diablo 2. Daikatana had an N64 port. I only know that game from N64. Daikatana, whatever it's called. I only know that game from the N64. Can't fall even if I don't fully agree with Stone. Because, for instance, a bunch of games I'm excited for are ports of games I didn't want to buy on PS, like Digimon Time Strangers I own on a PS5. Like Digimon Time. Well, Digimon. So you wanted that? You're saying you wanted that on PC, but you had to get it on PS5? PS1 port of Warcraft was doo-doo. Yeah, like that I grew up in that era where the PC games coming to consoles weren't really great. And now we're not really going to have that. I don't think we're going to have that. I think they're, for the most part, going to come out perfectly well, as perfectly fine as console games come out nowadays. I remember attempting to play Half-Life on Dreamcast. Keyword attempt. Die, Katana. You don't belong in this world. That'll be the Sony version. I wanted Time Strangers on Switch, but for a while it was either PS or PC. Otherwise, no way. And that's what PC players say about Mario games. Right? PC players wanted Odyssey, and they want Pokemon games, and they want all of these games on PC, and they don't get them. And I don't really think it's anti-consumer that they don't exist there. As a history major, I can point out examples of terrible things that we kept and still keep because we were used to having them. They did, and they recently did a good thing. Yeah, they want to mod them. You know, there's a reason that they would want them on PC. They want, well, to be fair, for the last two mainline Pokemon games, they wanted them on PC so that they could fix them. If you're not making a console, there's no reason. Yeah, and bear in mind, to make sure that we all understand this is just Sony exclusives. When Square Enix puts out a new game, they're not going to limit it to Sony, most likely. They're going to put it on other systems. We're getting Kenna Bridge of Spirits on Switch too. The thing is, they want would lay 60 for would they pay 60 for them? Is that what you're saying? They want to add Tifa to Mario Odyssey. Who's doing exclusives and not owned by the consoles? Like I used to call it. No, they're not second party consoles. Dedicated third party consoles, third party companies that make things specifically for one console. It's no different than Disney having Marvel, WB having DC. There've been a ton of indie comics, manga, etc. If you don't like Marvel being on Disney Plus, because Disney owns them, then I guess it's too bad. You know, like if you don't want to, like, it sucks. And I know it sounds like it sucks, and it sounds like it's so dismissive of people's wants and desires. But you're not gonna have everything you want everywhere you want it. You're just not. And I'm the same way. I'm the same way that there's just certain things that I probably don't have access to. For a long time, I wanted to play Halo games, and I didn't particularly care to have an Xbox. I didn't buy an Xbox One, no versions of it, and the only reason I have a Series X is because it was given to me. And if I didn't have any of that stuff, and I didn't have a PC to play Halo stuff, I wouldn't play any more Halo. And you know what? I did that for decades. I didn't play Halo, and I loved Halo, but I didn't play it. All right. That's just where I am. This for sure. PC gamers act like they should have all the games when it's like you already get basically everything. God forbid Nintendo, Sony have a few exclusive. Yeah, and And don't we say that Microsoft's one of Microsoft's issues, one of Xbox's issues was that they didn't have exclusives? There felt like there was no reason to buy an Xbox system. And there kind of wasn't. And you think everyone having a streaming service would mean they would try to be better, but somehow they all ended up sucking. I feel like systems should make me want to play the games, not the other way around, though. I buy a Switch because it's a good handheld for a great price. They wanted them on PC because it's my right to have it. I personally don't have an issue with exclusives. They're good for consoles, but I do get annoyed at Sony because they and again have semi-unprecedented way given the choice and are now taking it back. And yeah, and I guess the question is, should it have been a choice in the first place? When it comes to that, because I do think that I'm still very unconvinced. It feels like people are just conformed with these things. We have confirmable instances that letting games out to everyone has only been a good thing. Conforming to companies being able to dictate where we can and can't enjoy something is anti-consumer. Comparing exclusivity to while there's games I would like to play if they played differently. No, not if they played differently, if they were on different systems. My problem with Halo hasn't been how Halo feels. My problem with Halo was that I didn't want to buy the consoles that had them. That was my only issue with them. And I said, all right. I said, okay. I don't know. I don't know. It just is it any different than, like I said earlier, is it any different than your favorite food is at a different restaurant? Is it anti-consumer that you like Burger King burgers but you like McDonald's fries and you like Wendy's Frosty? Is it anti-consumer that you would have to go to 3 different places to buy the things that you like? Or is it just how competition works? Is that so? And I get the feeling I'm not going to convince you, so I'm not really trying to convince you. It's just that's my understanding on it, is that, and I say this again, it doesn't feel anti-consumer. When I say anti-consumer, I feel like they're actively making a choice with the intention of hurting a consumer, with the intention of hurting the consumer experience. And I don't think that they're sitting around going, we'll lock people away from our games. Like, I don't really feel like that's what they're doing. I feel like what they're doing is, we want to make a better product. This is how I'm trying to see it. We want to make a better product, and we want to focus on that product, and we want people to come around and buy our device and buy our games and play that product here. The guy at the burger isn't telling me that I can't go to the Italian place after. And who's saying, when is Sony saying that you can't buy other things? When is Sony saying that you can only buy a PlayStation? Just like the burger guy's not telling you can't go to a different place. The guy at Burger King isn't telling you that you can't go to Wendy's. But the guy at Burger King is saying that if you want a Whopper, you got to come to Burger King. It's not anti-consumer because McDonald's doesn't sell the Whopper. I don't think it's anti-consumer that Sony sells Sony games. Just like I don't think it's anti-consumer that Nintendo sells games that you play on Nintendo. I don't know. I just don't think so. If you want our type of burger, it has to come from our store. Is that anti-consumer? I just don't think it is. That's all right. It's fine if we disagree about it. I'm trying to see your point of view, and I just don't see it as and I never did. When all the discussion about first party exclusives becoming anti-consumer was started, I didn't really see it that way. I didn't view it as anti-consumer. I didn't think that the game companies were twirling their mustaches in order to screw everybody over. I think they're twirling their mustaches trying to make the most money. And you could argue that they'll make more. You could say that they'll make more money if they put it on other things, or they can also. But it's not just the money; it's also the experience that you're having. And I do have a better experience when I play certain things on PlayStation. It's complicated. Maybe we're just old. Ryan, there's no maybe about it. There's no maybe about it. I don't know. And yeah, if maybe it does come across that way. Maybe it comes across as I want limitations because I had limitations. And you know what? Here's what I will agree to you, Stone. Here's what I will agree with. It's probably not fair for me to ask for this to be limited because I grew up with limitations. It's not. What I want is a better experience. What I want is a more curated experience. You know, the logic that we have to have everything accessible to us all the time it's probably why we're having so much fatigue with technology nowadays. It's probably why we're going back to physical media. Why in a world of streaming services, why would somebody go back to physical media? For the cost of 3 months of Crunchyroll, I could buy a Blu-ray of one anime series. Why would anybody do that? Why would you limit yourself in that way? And the answer is because the experience that you have, being a more curated experience, tends to improve the experience. It tends to improve our engagement in the experience. Streaming services are great for having a lot of accessibility, but people often admit that they get lost in choice. You know, everybody, more than a few times, my favorite Netflix experience was scrolling Netflix for an hour and then giving up and playing a game. So I think that's why you would limit your choice. And I think that's why console exclusivity is going to end up working well, because it now becomes a curated experience. Or some version of a curated experience. Better example, if they told you can only buy pizza Diavola from that specific restaurant, then when I want that pizza, I don't know what pizza Diavola is. Then when I want that pizza, I'll go to that restaurant. And then when I don't want that, I'll go somewhere else, which I already do. If I want nuggets, right? Chicken nuggets with fries and something to drink, I'll probably go to Wendy's, unless I want McDonald's fries specifically, or I want to go and get a McFlurry, right? McDonald's does the McFlurry during the winter. They do the Shamrock Shake. Around then. I don't think it's anti-consumer that if I want a Shamrock Shake, I have to go to McDonald's. I really wanted Wendy's, but I really want a Shamrock Shake, so I have to go to McDonald's. I get to choose. I can choose. And of course, that's assuming that I don't just have both of them right next to me and I can just go to either one of them that I want. Other places can make those things. They just call it something different. Shamrock Shakes are now live, by the way. Oh yeah, it's March, so they should be live. But not all of them. If I want a Shamrock Shake, if I want a minty milkshake, which is basically what a Shamrock Shake is. If I want a minty milkshake, I go to McDonald's. Can I go to Wendy's? No. Chocolate and vanilla. That's your choices at Wendy's. And it's not really a milkshake. It's a Frosty, which is something different, but that's something different. Can I go to Dairy Queen and get something like milkshakey with mint in it? Sure, absolutely. Will it be a Shamrock Shake exactly? No. It'll be something different. So by that regard, couldn't I just buy another event? If I'm mad because God of War isn't coming out on PC, couldn't I just buy another adventure game? Right? Plenty of adventure games on PC. I should be able to just buy one of those. Why am I crying about God of War? I should buy that. But what I wanted was the God of War experience. I want that character with those situations in that world. Quite adding to this, Sony actually did to the example. Sometimes you just want a burger and not the whole meal, but the restaurant tells you you have to buy all of it or nothing. Wendy's has been updating their Frosty game. Oh, there's levels to the flavors now. Oh, it shows how long it's been since I've been at Wendy's. Mm-hmm. Plenty of RPGs besides Pokemon and Final Fantasy. And I've said that. You can play some of those. But sometimes you want that to be the case. You want Pokemon especially. I think Pokemon is true for that more than Final Fantasy is, because Final Fantasy changes it up all the time, where Pokemon always feels like Pokemon. So wanting the Pokemon experience in your Pokemon game, I think, is more valid than saying I need Final Fantasy to stay similar. They have Pop-Tart Frosties now. Whoa. All right, hold on. So I think that's it. I think that was I knew that was going to be a big discussion too. I knew that was going to lead to other discussions. Okay. They got yeah. Let me tell you something. That Girl Scout flavored Thin Mint is amazing. Girl Scout Thin Mint flavored Blizzard. They do Thin Mint Blizzard at Dairy Queen, and it's one of the best things you could get. What the F is going on in American fast food places? I can get something like a McFlurry at my ice cream shop. Stone, I can get something like a McFlurry at my ice cream shop. I'll see a Dragon. Hold on. All right, I'll tell you. I'm going to take, Stone, I'm going to take your example literally there. First off, we actually don't have that many ice cream shops. We have like Cold Stone Creamery, which God help you if you want a basic flavor there. And then there are some other places. Ice cream also tends to be more expensive than getting a Shamrock Shake. If I go to Dairy Queen and get a Thin Mint Blizzard, which is not a milkshake, but even if I get a milkshake, I think it's like $5 or $6. Whereas if I go to McDonald's, I think it's like $3. Cold Stone caters to a very specific crowd. I'm taking your example very literally. We just don't have much of that. We certainly don't have as many ice cream places as we have fast food places. There's a stretch not far from me where there is a Wendy's, a McDonald's, a Burger King, an Arby's, and there used to be a Boston Market. Later, Flash, have a good one. I hope you're all right. It used to be a Boston Market. They closed it, and then it became like a Five Guys Burgers and Fries. And then that closed, and now it's like a chicken place or something. All of that is in the vicinity. But if you want ice cream, you got to go to the Wendy's for a Frosty or McDonald's for a milkshake. There are no other choices for ice cream in that vicinity. I don't think Arby's sells that stuff. I don't think Burger King has any sort of ice cream options. And the chicken place is like a barbecue chicken place. So while there are a lot of restaurants, there are specific things that you want. And you have to go to those places, which actually is kind of a really good analogy here. Because there's going to be stuff that's multi-platform on PlayStation and PC and Xbox and Nintendo. There's going to be tons of that stuff. But it's always that we're only talking about the specific things that come out. And you will have to go to those stores in order to play them. Every time I hear more about American food industry, the more horrified I get. Stone. And I'll say this to everybody. If you are not horrified by American food standards, particularly when it comes to buying food on the go, you are probably not horrified enough. It really is. And we know it. We know that it's like that. We know that there is sugar in everything that we have, and that I can find 5 fast food places within a quarter mile of each other, and maybe I find one place that sells something healthy. And even if you get a salad at McDonald's, it's full of a bunch of crap that you don't want, right? The dressing has a bajillion calories in it. You're still probably getting a soda or something like that. Even if you get an orange juice, it's probably sweet. If you are horrified at American out on the go cuisine, you're probably not horrified enough. They pay people like crap. Like everything is wrong with them. Everything is wrong, and we know we don't have a choice. We have a choice. We can not order fast food. All right, fine, but the choice is that the stores aren't much better. It looks better. It sounds better. The price is usually better, but the food quality, unless you're buying very specific things, the food quality is still terrible. There's still sugar in everything. Yeah, we have a choice. It's like, which foot do you want to cut off? Just like we have choices. Some of those places use slave labor. McDonald's uses prison labor for pennies in some states. Yeah, very normal American company. Being too pro-consumer is a problem, but being too business-focused is also a problem. There needs to be a balance. Like anything. Like anything, there needs to be some sort of a balance. And going back to the original conversation before we go on, treating a lot of examples. Imagine going to McDonald's asking for Blizzard. When in Sony's case, it's more accurate. If Dairy Queen sold Blizzards at McDonald's for 2-ish years, and then we said no longer plan to do so, in which I would say, in that example, Dragoon, I would say, I'm just happy they sold it for the 2 years. I'm happy we got to see what it looks like. I'm happy we got a chance to experience it. And that's, I'm being sort of like, that's very dismissive of the problem. I think that's very dismissive of the issue. But yeah, I would look at, in that particular example, I would say, oh, that's awesome that they even had it. That's why people feel bitter. And I guess that's why I understand it. I understand. But when I talked about people feeling bitter, I thought it was funny because not that they're feeling bitter, but I said this at the very beginning, that it was interesting how varied the response is, because there are some people that are really bitter about it. And then there are some people that think it's a great idea that we're going to get better games and that it's going to be that's where I am, where I think it's going to be a more curated experience, or at the very least, I hope it's a more curated experience. If 5 years from now, the games are still garbage and it's only hurt them, I wouldn't want that to continue. But for right now, it's like, no, I actually kind of dig that. Even though, let's say PC did the same thing and you'd be cutting things off from me, I would say, yeah, that's kind of a bummer. It also kind of hurts that the games are $70, right? In this economy where everything is so expensive, games being as expensive as they are means that you can't just run the board. And I'll say this to Stone directly. That's what I was kind of saying earlier. Like, I don't mind it if I can just go wherever I want to go. That's why I was looking at it from a different perspective. I don't mind it if I can go wherever I want to go, but some people can't. And I get that that's why it's frustrating, because now it feels like there is a section of gaming that is locked away from you. And it does suck. It does feel like that it sucks. And I'm not going to say that it doesn't suck, but my issue is that I don't think it needs to exist the other way either. I don't think it needs to exist where everybody can play everything on any platform, because that is the ultimate goal. If you're talking about the anti-consumer nature of locking things to one console, then the opposite of that is making sure that everything is available everywhere. And I don't think that needs to be the case either. First party games, right? Because third party games already are. That's, like I said, if you want to play a Final Fantasy game, you can probably play it wherever it's going to come out, right? There's probably there's probably going to be a PC version of it. It's going to be on PlayStation, definitely. It'll most likely come out on Switch. Like, if you want to play something like that, it's probably going to come out everywhere. But when Sony decides it's time to make the new Horizon game, and it's only on a Sony system, I don't feel like I'm being cheated. I just feel like, all right, well, that's just where it is. It's me wanting to go to somewhere like Nintendo World, what was the theme park, or the Nintendo Museum? The Nintendo Museum. It's me wanting to see the Nintendo Museum, but it's in Japan. I don't think that Nintendo is like actively doing something against me because they put it in Japan, and now it's locked away from me. Like, I don't feel like I've been wronged in any way, or that they're being anti-consumer or anti-fan when they do that. That's just where it is. So I can go or I can't go. Just like I probably have stuff here that people want to see. Like, if you want to go see the Nintendo Museum, you have to go to Japan. If you want to meet some of the rudest people you're ever going to meet in your life, you come to Philadelphia, you know? And I know you want to experience that. I know that that's what you want. That's what everybody wants. Everybody wants rude people, you know? I'm sure a lot of early examples weren't accurate to what Sony actually did. Making a lot of these false equivalencies. Yeah, I guess so. I that's why I was trying to not do that, but I ended up doing that. Yeah, if there's anything that's anti-consumer, it's microtransactions and locking paywalls and pay to win, and like all of that stuff is way more anti-consumer, I think. Hey, I like Philly. I like Philly too. I mean, listen, I'm from Philly. I like Philly, but they're rude. Philadelphia is rude in the way that Philadelphia is rude in the way that there's like a waitresses at a diner are rude, but that's why you go to the diner. Like, yeah, I wouldn't say that if people want to people want to come to Philadelphia because they want people to be rude to them. Like, I'm not saying it's anything to that extreme, but it is, when you live here, it does kind of fall into, they don't hate you, they're just being rude. Does that make sense? Like a sassiness? Yeah, is that like a sassy person? Where it like you, sure, they're sassy and they're rude, but that's kind of the order of the day here. So you almost kind of expect it. New York has that. I've seen the few times that I've been to New York, I've seen people interacting in a way that you would think that, God, why would anybody live here? And the people always say that about New York. Like, why would anybody live here? But I think when you're there and you're entrenched in it, I think you start to get it. You know, when I'm walking, when I'm in Center City, Philadelphia, and something happens, right? Somebody beeps their horn because the person's sort of walking across the street and, like with their light, right? Like the light, you know, when you walk across the street, but the light's changing, so you're not fully there when the traffic light is go, but you're still kind of in the street a little bit. So then someone blares on their horn, and then the person will turn around and curse at them. Right? They'll say something. It's, you look at it and you think, oh my God, everybody's so mean, right? The guy, yeah, the guy's so mean that's in the car, and the guy walking didn't have to say that. Until you live it for a while and you're like, oh, I get it. Like, it's part of the atmosphere. It ends up being part of the atmosphere and the environment to engage in it. Yeah, I'm walking it. Right? That's the New York one, but. Oh, why does anyone live in Gotham? They got lunatics planning to blow up City Hall like every other day. Yeah, we don't have that, thank God. But I don't know. There you end up kind of, it's part of the experience to have that. I don't even know how we got on that. Can you pay Philly to Can you pay Philly to spit on you asking for a friend? No, if you talk smack to the right person, it'll probably just happen on its own. Yeah, in Boston, they had a restaurant where the whole point was they are jerks to you, and people paid to eat there. Like, there's something to be said about the experience of it all. I can be outraged at more than one anti-consumer measure. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Wear a Cowboys jersey, right? Yeah, like, I don't know. That's always kind of a sort of a weird thing to me. You do kind of get used to it, though. You do kind of, like, to the point where it almost makes you happy. There have been times in Center City where I watch people arguing, and I'm just like, man, it feels good to be here. It feels good to be here right now, right? So annoying, right? Nobody's trying to blow up anything, thank God, but when you see people crossing and they're kind of being a nuisance, or somebody starts launching insults or curses at them, and you're just kind of like, yeah, all right, that's where I am. As someone who isn't a football fan and lives in Philly, I might just do it as an April Fool's joke. It'll kind of get lost on you in April because it's not football season. It's got to be football. When it comes to Philly, if you want to piss somebody off by wearing the wrong jersey, you can kind of do it with baseball a little bit, but it's really got to be football. It's definitely more of a football town than anything else, which is a shame because I love hockey. All right. But that is like the longest, I think it's the longest just chatting session we've ever had. Real quick, if you watch the YouTube videos and if you're watching this now, Tuesday, March 3rd video, I had to split into 2 parts because we had technical issues. I did not end up merging them together. I just put it. I'm going to put them up on YouTube as 2 separate parts. I was a little lax on the uploads this week, which I apologize for. I blame Expedition 33, but so that's going to be up in 2 parts. So if you happen to watch that, hi YouTube. So if you do happen to watch those, if you're here and you happen to watch those videos, just know that they're going to go up. One of them went up today. Monday's video went up today, and then both parts for Tuesday are going up tomorrow. And they're going to be uploaded as separate parts. I labeled them part 1 and 2, but they're going to go up as separate parts. This is also a chance for me to experiment with that. I am kind of curious to see what happens because I have been considering uploading everything before just chatting and then everything after just chatting up to YouTube. I have been considering doing that. So this will be a little bit of a test for me to do that. What are they going to do with Nix's? Nix's is a PC porting studio. I guess that depends on what their future plans are. Because if their future plans are no PC ports, that means that they're going to have to repurpose them. If it means that most games won't get PC ports, then they'll purpose them to that. They still have, and they aren't stopping. Sam said, I'm not entirely sure because they were planning to do Ghost of Yotei, and now the rumor is that they're going to be canceling that. Yeah, they're porting Death Stranding 2 this month. That might have been too far in, but supposedly the rumor is that they're canceling the Ghost of Yotei PC port. So Death Stranding might be happening just because they were already so far in it, it's worth it to do. But anything that they have future projects for, they might just be shutting down. If that's what they're going to end up doing, they're probably just going to say, like, nah, we're just going to stop. Don't worry about it. Kojima will not let them stop PC ports. That's going to be the question there. That's going to be the question. Now I guess the next thing to ask is, what are the studios and the devs going to think of this? Because did the companies that made God of War and all of that stuff, do they still want that revenue? So Santa Monica, I think I don't think we're done yet. I don't think we're done with this. I think that there's going to be more news that comes from it, but just talking about it right now as not a rumor, I think it is confirmed. I think we're just going to have to wait and see how far they go with all of this and what their standards are. Because yeah, maybe there are going to be some games where they say we're designing this as a multi-platform game. In which case, where is my Gran Turismo on Switch? Yeah, it's according to Jason Schreier. Well, I just mean that every time things get reported, things change, right? They may report this, and then 2 days later, or a month later, they're going to get some different news, and someone's going to say, no, change that. Yeah, Mario Kart. Gran Turismo. Yeah, I just like people have been asking for where's Mario Kart on PC. Everyone has because everyone else has come out of the woodwork to back it up. Yeah, so we'll see where this goes and what all of this means, because who knows? Maybe this means more stuff. Maybe this means that like I said, we'll get a better curated experience. Maybe we'll get we'll get faster turnaround times. Maybe games won't take 8 years anymore because they don't have to develop a PC version of it. I don't know. I'm just speculating at this point, but we really don't have any idea how this is going to impact everything. For as much as we just talked about it, it really all is just speculation because we don't know. We don't know. That's some copium. I don't think it's copium to say that we don't know what's going to happen. I think it's copium to imagine that the whole it's copium to just automatically say everything's going to be better, right? Gaming has been in turmoil for 10 years now, but now that we're going back to possibly console, right now that Sony is going back to console exclusives because Nintendo's always been there, now everything's going to be hunky-dory. No, that would be ridiculous. That would be ridiculous to say that. But this could potentially be the beginning of some sort of different era. If we're not happy with where gaming has been, it's not going to get better if things don't change. You know, people act like gaming was better 15, 20 years ago. So here you are returning to one aspect of 15 to 20 years ago, and now everybody's saying, no, I don't like that. That's not a good idea. It's like, I don't know. We don't really know how it's going to play out. For all we know, this will last 2 years, and then Sony will say, never mind, everything's coming out. They're going to give up. Aren't most games developed as PC games in the first place because the consoles are already similar to PCs? I always thought that too, Wario. I always questioned how much effort goes into making a PC version of a game when you use PCs to develop them. We're going back to the wrong. I'm sorry, Stone. I'm sorry. I don't mean to. Let me hold on. Let me say this now. I'm going to end the topic now. PC ports were worked on after Sony said, so it didn't affect dev times. I'll say this now. I'm not trying to piss anybody off. And I know that. I know that I tend to come across as the person who doesn't want to piss everybody off, so I feel like I don't need to say that. But at the same time, I know that sometimes we talk about stuff here, and I know sometimes it gets really frustrating. You're probably calling me an idiot. You're probably thinking that I'm the smartest person in the world. I have no idea. I have no idea what the situation is. I just want to make sure that I'm not trying to actively target anybody. I'm not trying to harp on anybody's experience or their engagement with any of this stuff. These are just my opinions. That's just how I feel about some of this stuff. And I say that as somebody who is not actually a game dev. I don't have any stock in any of these companies. There's no monetary reason or not moral reason, but like there's no tribalism. Like I'm not sitting here hoping that this messes up or blows up in their face, just like with Highguard and just like Sony and just like Microsoft, right? I don't want Microsoft to fail. I don't want Xbox to fail. I don't want any bad things to happen. I don't want there to be any bad blood when I talk about this stuff. I know I get kind of energetic and passionate about it, and I worry that sometimes, and I guess that's why I'm saying this, like, you're not taking this personally. I know that I'm a and this is wildly off topic, I think. But I think it applies to a lot of stuff that I do here. I know that I can be a very energetic person. I know that I am a very opinionated person. I know that I'm somebody who has learned not to keep my opinions to myself. And it's one of the reasons I like streaming is because I get to do this. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm like overly tribal about any of this, that I'm like, you guys are idiots or anything. I don't want anybody to take it personally. And I'm Stone, and I'm happy that you're not taking it personally. I do worry that other people might, though. I do worry that other people are either taking it personally or just taking it to an extreme in thought, where people are like mad that, oh my God, I can't believe he feels that way. Like I don't want that to ever be the case. And even me saying all of this is probably annoying to some people, but I don't know. I'm a very animated person when it comes to this stuff, and I find it very interesting to engage in it. So I enjoy it, and I usually enjoy it. Like I said, if I didn't enjoy talking about this stuff, no matter how heated we get or no matter how energized we get, if I didn't enjoy talking about it, I would just say I don't want to talk about it and move on. And then if you guys kept insisting on talking about it, I would either let you and not acknowledge it, which I have. I've seen you guys have conversations that I'm just not particularly interested in, so I just let you have your conversation. Or I would actively shut it down and say, all right, we're getting too much. We're getting too far into this. I'm going to shut it down. And we've done that before. We've done it where everybody's getting a little bit energized, and we're like, all right, let's shift gears here because let's everybody take a breather. there's a little there's a little tribalism, but like a healthy amount ish. There's just enough tribalism for us to give a damn about talking about this stuff. I wouldn't call it tribalism in the sense that I'm hating everybody else who disagrees with me, but there's a little bit in the sense of if I have to care at least a little bit, right? I have to care a little bit because that's the other thing that does happen is that when stuff like this happens, people are like, "Why do you care so much about it?" It's like, why it doesn't affect you. It's why are you so pissed off? It's like, I'm not that pissed off. I'm just I get into the conversation. I'm right. I don't want to have a conversation about something that I am so bored that Marcos is falling asleep. Yeah, we did some refereeing during the Final Fantasy 16 days. Yeah, you're right about that. Just release another Uniracers. Oh, come on. No, release another Micro Machines. There are some VODs. Oh, man, are there VODs for 16? That sounds juicy. It should be on YouTube. I think I put all the Final Fantasy 16 videos on YouTube. You'll just have to search for them. I'll be honest though, Samson, it's even after 16. We have certain legacies. Hi, Samson, by the way. We have certain legacies here of that we talk about. And 16 is one of them. We had a lot of discourse about Final Fantasy 16, and it still kind of comes up from time to time. 16 is a good example of, for us, 16 has been a good example of a franchise that has shifted directions from what it used to be and fighting about whether or not it should still be identified as that franchise, whether the franchise's identity is even that anymore. How long has it ever been that? When it changed, specifically for 16, did we like what it transformed into? Because people are kind of all over the place with 16. So look, Final Fantasy 16 is trash. Final Fantasy 16 is awesome. It always happens. It always happens. There's such a gigantic divide because it's not even just two sides, right? With 16 has the people who are happy for the direction change and are happy with the game. There are people who don't mind a bit of a change of direction but didn't like 16. There's people who liked Final Fantasy 16 but wish Final Fantasy stayed what it was before, and then there's people who just hate it across the board. And it's such a weird, divisive kind of game that it always ends up coming up. And 16 was some of the times where we were having these conversations that was like, is 16 an RPG? Is it a JRPG? Do we even know what that means anymore? What makes it an RPG? Like it was like, is Final Fantasy even an RPG anymore? If not, how long since that has changed? Was it 15 or was it 13 or was it 11 or was it 12? It's all over the place. It's crazy. Yeah, there are no sides. I'm right and you're wrong. Yeah, it was kind of wild. That's why I say it's fun. I for the record, for 16, you can watch the VODs if you want to watch those. I thought the game was great. I thought it was terrific. I enjoyed the experience. Is it a turn-based game? No, not really, Yeah, with that, yeah, if you ever are inclined to do so, look up on the YouTube channel, look up for Final Fantasy 16, and yeah, we had my whole playthrough should be up there. But we've had many moments where we talked about 16. It always comes up. You're talking about it right now. Look, how can I deny Clive's chest? Look. See, this is a good action. Look, we're all over the place. Also, hey, I left the stream running at least. Thank you for using electricity and compute power to watch the stream or to have the stream on. Look, it's happening again. So Final Fantasy 16 is a great Final Fantasy game, but I think Square Enix should use the gameplay from 7 Remake if they're doing action combat. Like, it's all over the place, right? Do I like the Final Fantasy went to a more action system? No, I hate Final Fantasy 16. Well, what'd you think of 7R? Oh, 7R was great. Like, all right, well, wait, hold on. Oh, man. All right. So here's what we're going to do for real this time. We are 3 hours in to the stream. I told you that we were going to have conversations today and they were going to run forever. Final Fantasy 16 is my favorite racing game. I don't know. Does that beat the Chocobos in Final Fantasy 7? I don't know. So we're going to take a break. I'm going to run, and I don't have any coffee, so I have to find something. I made some rice, so I'll probably just have a quick thing of rice just to have something in my stomach. Yeah, poor Minish Cappers. I'm sorry. I apologize to anybody who was really here for Minish Cap. No, we're going back to Minish Cap. Back to the original question. Yeah, we're Stone. We're in Minish Cap now. So I forget where we are. We're heading to with the swamp. We're in the swamp dungeon. We're about to go to the swamp dungeon. I love 16 combat. I just prefer 7's combat. 7 RB is my least favorite racing game. The Chocobos in 7 Rebirth controlled like ass, but they're supposed to control like ass. Actually, no, they're only supposed to control like ass when you're doing the race. All right, so give me a few minutes, and I will be right back.